things are escalating in strangeness. In late October, during the peak of its expected activity, 3 instances of Atlas vanished beyond the sun. Meanwhile, as NASA fell silent amid a curiously timed government closure, another development unfolded. Individuals skilled in extrasensory reconnaissance, remote viewers, received directives from unidentified intel sources to mentally investigate the anomaly. Their visions revealed no mere comet. Instead, it appeared as a colossal mothership, spanning kilometers, brimming with millions of inactive entities, where organic and synthetic components merged in forms that defy our notions of biology or machinery. Then, a CERN staffer stepped up, alleging that researchers at the collider had unlocked a gateway, forging direct contact with the inhabitants of that enigmatic body known as 3 Atlas, and tuning into a broadcast that resonated telepathically in every mind present simultaneously. In this episode, we'll plunge into these theories, and fair warning, they grow increasingly alarming with each revelation. We'll kick off by exploring what those remote viewers glimpsed within 3 Atlas, culminating in the recurring prophecies pinning December 2025 as the juncture where realities diverge and human destiny branches into wildly contrasting trajectories. This is our deep dive installment scrutinizing how remote viewers, insiders, and seers might all be glimpsing identical truths through varied lenses. Let's dive in. Chapter 1. Psychically scanning the mothership. What occurs when you task the human psyche with detecting an entity millions of miles distant? An object hurtling at inconceivable velocities, perhaps utterly unlike our assumptions? What unfolds if you sidestep scopes, analyzers, and equations, turning instead to raw awareness as your tool? The outcomes, surprisingly, prove both disquieting and strikingly uniform among unrelated practitioners with zero prior exchange. For newcomers, remote viewing constitutes a disciplined method for acquiring intel on remote or hidden subjects via heightened senses. Originating from CIA and Stanford Research Institute efforts in the Cold War era, the process enforces rigorous safeguards. Viewers operate in total ignorance via blind protocols, devoid of any standard clues on the subject, progressing through phases from initial hunches to intricate specifics. Though mainstream experts label it quackery, its track record in defense ops delivered hits so robust statistically that initiatives persisted for more than 20 years. Whether pinpointing enemy subs, sketching overseas bases, or forecasting global shifts, these sessions yielded enough wins to sustain Pentagon interest. Come August 2025, the group adventures in remote viewing aimed this debated technique at 3 Atlas. They coded it as Target 77,483-050 and gathered 6 seasoned practitioners, each boasting extensive prep and proven hits from prior missions. Participants received solely the code, no visuals, briefs, or hints on the focus. Complete data blackout. The prompt was straightforward. Uncover the essence of the entity dubbed 3 Atlas and its trajectory across our solar realm. The feedback was staggering. Not for irrefutable validation. Such data falls short of empirical rigor. But for the alignment. 6 solo sessions yielded portrayals converging on precise engineering aspects. All noted a blend of living and constructed traits. Without exception, terms like casing, frame, exterior, alloyed, ceramic smooth, cutting-edge surfaced alongside viscous, jellyish, vital tones, like a melding of device and organism outside our classifications. Various reports evoked a volumetric form turning cavernous, featuring observation ports, inner observation zones, advanced labs with regulated atmospheres. Accounts included electric bursts, crackles, hums, throbbing vibes, luminous parts, shimmering exteriors, emanating fields, hues that morphed, borders showing corrosion or stains as though weathered by eons in interstellar emptiness. A few highlighted a forward-emitting mist from the craft, dispersing matter ahead and astern, strikingly echoing theories that starfaring vessels might launch vanguard particles to sweep away hazardous junk. One participant, John Dixon, sketched depictions of an artificial construct, far from natural, adorned with vivid lime green accents and intense white glows spilling from joints in hexagonal panels. He detailed the white illumination shifting to green upon air contact or via thermal reactions across alloy strata. It looked like assorted metals stacked in layers, maybe evaporating or turning straight to gas, accounting for those odd signals picked up by telescopes. Pure nickel without any iron, a chemical makeup that defies natural occurrence. Patricia, one of the participants in the session, sensed packed interiors, tech far surpassing what humans can build today, and something she called a non-human awareness equipped with advanced interaction skills and a rather condescending view of our smarts. Several observers, on their own, mentioned this feeling of the thing or whatever's inside. Watching them in return, fully cognizant of the viewing effort and mostly apathetic, not aggressive, just aloof, like how we'd eye a bug trying to puzzle out a rocket ship. Then there's the info from Bertie Josky, operating in a separate initiative with the target code 495268877. Music. Her work centered on what she termed echo traces, subtle echoing pulses hinting at a three-eyed artifact probe from a vanished Martian society long gone. She, along with her colleagues, caught glimpses of shimmering crystal formations projected holographically across the surface. Not tech meant for conquest, but heading back to its origins. The phrase they repeated was homing signal, as though three-eyed Atlas is sending out calls to stir up sleeping mechanisms on Mars, and even Europa, that icy satellite of Jupiter hiding vast underground seas that could conceal all sorts of secrets. This sits awkwardly alongside ideas in panspermia, the concept that life hitchhikes across space through organic or engineered dispersal. If Mars hosted a sophisticated culture in the past, a debatable notion backed by certain isotope clues we'll dig into shortly, and if they launched scouts before some disaster wiped them out, a craft coming back after billions of years could be seeking to link up with any leftovers. Not an assault, but a return. Not outsiders, but far-flung kin scouting the old stomping grounds. Yet the creepiest account arises from Sebastian Martin, an expert in intuitive intel gathering, who says intel outfits reached out to him. He keeps the agencies anonymous, and when tasked with scanning Three-Eyed Atlas, he envisioned a colossal carrier vessel, stretching kilometers wide, brimming with what he labeled millions of inactive passengers. Alien, snake-like, draconian. These words carry heavy conspiracy vibes, but he employs them just to convey the unfamiliar forms. Entities in a kind of stasis or minimal activity mode, biding their time. Martin goes further. He alleges a source inside CERN, the European hub for nuclear studies where the massive Hadron Collider blast particles near light speed, disclosed that researchers there opened a gateway. Literal, not figurative or hypothetical, but real, harnessing the collider to form or tap into a cross-dimensional link for bidirectional exchange with the entity piloting or housed in Three-Eyed Atlas. According to the tale, illusory shapes materialized at the site. Lofty, serpentine, or draconian-looking, they linked minds with each researcher present. All got the identical transmission at once. We arrive peacefully. Our purpose is to collect this world's star seeds. In spiritual lingo, star seeds mean cosmic-originated essences or minds embodied on Earth to aid in our species' growth or enlightenment. Believe it word for word, interpret it symbolically, or brush it off. The uniformity among those who heard it stands out. Plus, the schedule, assuming it's legit, matches Three-Eyed Atlas's solar closest pass in late October. Peak proximity and intensity, when sustaining such a link, might demand minimal energy. The CERN twist stirs huge debate since collider runs do recreate early universe conditions unseen in our spacetime since the Big Bang's dawn. Intense impacts explore reality's weave in mysterious ways. Notions of spawning tiny black holes, reaching parallel realms, or breaching quantum layers into the unknown aren't pure fantasy. They're bold offshoots of mainstream physics that a few experts ponder seriously. Turning that into gateways for chatting with cosmic wanderers demands huge jumps no mainstream scientist would take. Still, few would have foreseen scattered remote viewers nailing the blend of organic and engineered traits without any briefing. The Future Forecasting Group, yet another team of intuitives, ran probes on Three-Eyes that revealed what they termed strange ties to doomsday scenarios. They describe observing the object launch upon nearing its perihelion. Swarms of minor probes are unleashed, sparking worldwide plasma upheavals and EMP-style interferences as they penetrate Earth's atmosphere or magnetosphere. These insights pinpoint a pivotal moment in December 2025, coinciding with 3I/Atlas emerging from the sun's shadow for optimal visibility from our planet. The seers outline a branching path in the timeline, a split where humankind either embraces helpful alien tech for a massive advancement or plunges into a dark forest confrontation, drawing from the sci-fi idea where societies conceal themselves, viewing any encounter as mutual destruction. Now, things turn intriguing on a deeper level. Remote viewing clashes with established physics principles. Data can't outpace light speed. Awareness can't probe remote sites absent physical links. Sensing demands inputs from light particles or similar entities. Still, in structured sessions, remote observers have pinpointed subs, sketched unseen structures, and forecasted upcoming incidents with hit rates far above random odds. The how remains a mystery, yet the volume of verified cases demands we confront a dataset that's, though not rigorous science, persuasively significant in stats. So, how should we interpret the 3I/Atlas remote viewing insights? A few explanations arise. First, it could all be fabrication, mind-weaving fantasies, linking patterns to pop culture tales of motherships and lost Mars societies. The seers might be channeling societal myths from the shared psyche and overlaying them on a vague focus. This accounts for the overlap via common lore, not true observation. Second, they could be connecting to genuine elements, but filtering them via human biases and assumptions. Detecting vibes, forms, or designs, then recasting them as recognizable symbols. A reptilian vibe might signal a unique wave or shape. An aloof mindset could stem from robotic ops or AI overlooking organic life as irrelevant. The signal beacon idea might hold true at core, even if details miss. Perhaps an old scout heading back, though not Martian or from anything we'd know. Third, the remote gazers might be glimpsing potential futures or likelihood webs, quantum overlays of possible paths, and outlining the strongest or most vibrant prospect. Here, they're not viewing 3I/Atlas in its current state, but how it could evolve, behave, or trigger events. The doomsday visions, probe launches, and plasma chaos stand as options that could actualize or fade based on upcoming decisions and luck. Or fourth, they're spot on. 3I/Atlas matches their depiction precisely. A biomechanical vessel housing sleeping entities from an antique culture, maybe Martian roots, maybe even more primordial, employing tech that spans realms or eras, nearing Earth deliberately, with intent. That intent ties to outreach, gathering, or sparking a shift beyond our grasp. The CERN gateway tale, as outlandish as it seems, hints at efforts by insiders in governments or labs to reach out or decode the entity prior to its full entry into our domain. Assessing remote viewing info proves tricky since it defies standard proof methods. We can't stage lab tests for a singular occurrence, like an interstellar visitor traversing our system. No way to tweak factors or insist on repeats. All we manage is matching reports to outcomes. And even that invites personal spin. If 3I/Atlas ejects tiny bodies in December, does it validate the sightings? Or is it just routine comet shedding? If odd EM flares, plasma bursts, or signaling crop up, do our detectors catch them? And are we ready to face their implications? What stands out to me, reviewing this with maximum neutrality, is the precision. Vague assertions like alien vessel are impossible to disprove and pointless. But specifics on hexagonal joints glowing in particular hues under set triggers, on stratified metal layers that sublimate, on inner observation areas and haughty demeanors, these surpass wild shots. They're checkable, theoretically, should we ever approach 3I/Atlas near enough to test. And the remarkable agreement among independent viewers who operated without collaboration, under blinded protocols, and from diverse training traditions and approaches, indicates they're detecting something real, though its exact nature stays subject to debate. A recurring theme across various remote viewing efforts was the idea of concealment. This 3I/Atlas entity seems intentionally crafted to blend seamlessly into the environment, imitating a comet or asteroid to stay hidden right under our noses. This isn't mere suspicion, it's a calculated tactic. For a highly evolved society venturing into possibly adversarial space, Broadcasting your presence with bright signals and transmissions would be foolish. Instead, you monitor, you study, you stay invisible until you've evaluated the risks. A device masked as a comet could slip into a star system, traverse it without interference, collect information, and exit without provoking any potential defenses. The data from scientific surveys to date doesn't rule this out. 3I/Atlas shows a coma. It's releasing particles. It displays comet-like traits. Yet it has no tail, bizarre composition, holds its course amid material ejection, and traces a route oddly synced with our world's paths. It resembles a comet just enough to evade quick checks, but odd enough up close to spark curiosity. Precisely the hallmark of effective disguise, sufficient to dodge a superficial look, yet intriguing enough to invite deeper scrutiny. Moreover, numerous sessions highlighted an obstruction effect. Certain viewers felt their remote probes disrupted, as though an entity sensed their focus and actively resisted scrutiny. Others managed breakthroughs, but encountered safeguards or obstacles, tiers of protection or diversion. One participant, John Dixon, noted that any inhabitants, assuming there are some, displayed apprehension about impending results, possibly tied to their agenda. Such fear points to foresight, sentience, and high stakes. Inanimate objects don't strategize without intellect. They don't dread repercussions without grasping their impact. The truly disorienting part of this puzzle isn't the reliability of the remote viewing itself. It's the broader ramifications, should even fragments hold true. This goes beyond a straightforward comet versus spaceship dilemma. It evokes a range of scenarios where organic life intertwines with machinery, where antiquity and cutting-edge tech coexist without conflict, where minds might defy our familiar forms, and where this visitor in our solar system could serve as a scout, a propagator, a signal, and an evaluation, all simultaneously, serving layered roles over epochs that eclipse our timeline. Viewers repeatedly portrayed 3I/Atlas as primordial, employing terms like remnant, heirloom, eroded, time-worn, yet also engineered with finesse, intricate, state-of-the-art, which hints at a culture that reached tech pinnacle eons or epochs ago, only to evolve beyond, crumble, or scatter, abandoning automated sentinels still pursuing directives from creators long vanished. We're witnessing the cosmos's version of a castaway note tossed into the void ages ago, now beaching on our cosmic coast, and instead of deciphering it, we're quibbling over its material. The December 2025 date surfaces often in these sessions as a pivotal moment. Whether this stems from authentic foresight of an upcoming incident, subconscious cues from the query's phrasing, or simply because that's when 3I/Atlas re-enters visibility and naturally draws speculative focus, is uncertain. Still, the alignment on this period, separate from orbital math on sightings and closest solar paths, merits attention. If an event looms, if 3I/Atlas plans more than a mere transit, December marks the revelation point. For now, we hold accounts that echo speculative tales, yet originate from individuals with verified histories in intuitive intel operations. We have portrayals that align too neatly with irregularities flagged by observational tools. And we face inquiries into awareness, into extrasensory human capabilities, and into whether reality proves more intricate and linked than our reductionist views permit. Through remote insights, 3I/Atlas transcends mere matter. It acts as a reflector, echoing our preconceptions, anxieties, aspirations, and maybe our roots. Chapter 2. The Mars Link. October 3rd, 2025. As much of the planet rested or followed ordinary schedules, an astonishing occurrence unfolded roughly 18 million miles distant. 3I/Atlas executed its nearest pass by Mars, skimming the rusty world at a separation that's a mere breath in astronomical scale, nearer than it would ever approaching our planet nearer than any other verified interstellar traveler has come to any world in the solar system. The specifics of when, how, and exactly where it zipped by spark doubts without easy resolutions. What draws it to Mars? Out of every body in the system that 3I/Atlas might have swung past on its path, why linger so near the single spot boasting the strongest signs of past livability? The place with parched ancient waterways, ancient lake remnants, rocks formed only in watery conditions, and bursts of methane from mysterious origins. Pure chance? Or could Mars be the very purpose behind 3I Atlas's journey? Dr. John Brandenburg, a plasma expert who contributed to the Strategic Defense Initiative and has devoted years to probing Mars's rocky history, floats an idea that orthodox planetary experts dismiss, yet struggle to fully debunk. He argues Mars's air didn't simply fade away via gradual solar wind stripping across eons. Instead, he claims it got obliterated on purpose through atomic blasts. Not from space rocks crashing down, but from blasts, man-made booms, that imprint unique atomic traces detectable even now in the planet's dirt and gases. The clues he highlights involve heightened amounts of specific atomic variants, especially xenon-129, a byproduct of atomic splitting. Those proportions don't fit patterns from ordinary radioactive breakdown or space radiation hits. They eerily echo what's found at Earth-based bomb trial zones. He's pinpointed two Martian zones, Cydonia Mensae and Galaxia's Chaos, where these atomic markers spike, hinting at epicenter spots for colossal detonations. The power needed would eclipse all human feats, on the scale of millions of megatons, potent enough to scour the skies clean, wipe out surface life, and render a world lifeless. Before brushing this off as wild conjecture, let's weigh the established facts. Mars once shielded itself with a magnetic barrier that collapsed abruptly in geologic timescales, about 4 billion years back. Lacking that shield, solar winds could gradually peel away the atmosphere. Yet the atomic oddities Brandenburg spotted don't square with a leisurely fade-out. They point to sudden disasters. Several scientists have flagged irregularities in Mars's atmospheric argon levels versus standard planet-building theories. Clearly, more than a slow bleed occurred. Something drastic unfolded. This leads to the truly unsettling puzzle. Suppose Mars once supported smart beings, and suppose their society had progressed to the point of sparking or suffering atomic annihilation. What became of them? Did they flee? Did they plant the seeds of life on Earth prior to doom, turning us into their heirs? Or did they dispatch scouts, ships, survival pods into the void, banking on a future revival of their scorched home? Cliff High, a specialist in sifting data through online word trends to forecast events, lays out precisely this narrative. He posits that we humans trace back to Martian roots, that we're the survivors or echoes of a society that either self-destructed or fell to attack, and that 3I Atlas arrives to connect with the flickering survivors of its own lineage. In his view, the visitor isn't some outsider. It's a return, an acknowledgement, a long-lost kin dropping in to assess the offspring of the escapees. The flight path backs this up in a chilling way. 3I Atlas's closest solar pass, its perihelion, hits on October 29, 2025, at roughly 1. For astronomical units, slipping just within Mars's path. Viewed from Earth, this unfolds sunward, hiding the thing during its height of vigor and emissions. But Mars sees it differently. From there, 3I Atlas would shine clear, trackable, a vivid streak arcing across the red sky right as its venting and energy peak. If the goal was alerting Mars, making sure Mars spots you, this path nails it perfectly. The probes circling Mars, ESA's Mars Express and ExoMars Trace Orbiter, alongside NASA's Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter and the ground-based rovers, all got a front-row view during 3I Atlas's nearest swing. The shots they've shared depict a vivid, tight-knit form, lacking the hazy comet trail you'd anticipate. Indeed, the Trace Orbiter's video clip tracks it shifting against fixed stars, with experts observing that 3I Atlas's glow and shape shifted more than the steady stars, implying genuine shifts, true intricacy, far from just a frozen chunk flipping end over end. NASA's Perseverance, equipped with lenses for stargazing after dark, snapped something amid this window. A blur, a dash, a dim gleam into that amateur footage from the Martian evening, which hobbyist stargazers refined and sharpened afterward, shows a pretty grainy picture. The shape looks stretched out, nearly tube-like. Although Avi Loeb and fellow experts have pointed out that the stretching probably resulted from movement while the shot was being taken, the key point is that this thing popped up in Mars' atmosphere right when 3 Atlas hit its nearest point. Is it the main body, or maybe a tiny scout that remote viewers said it could send out? No clue yet. And we could be in the dark for ages, given how slowly the info has trickled out. The federal budget crisis, which we'll dig into further down the line, shut down NASA's press teams completely. The sharpest camera on the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter, the best detail-capturing tool orbiting the red planet, was meant to snap clear shots of 3Y. Either those pics never happened, sparking doubts about the failed attempt, or they sit somewhere unreleased, prompting other suspicions. The European Space Agency dropped a fuzzy animation a few days post-flyby. NASA stayed mum on anything official. China's Tianwen probe and the UAE's Hope mission, both with prime viewing angles, haven't said a peep. This joint silence from 4 separate space programs straight up fuels ideas of a deliberate hush-up, questions over the true sightings, and whether the Mars pass exposed something too explosive for public eyes without causing widespread alarm or shaking global power balances. Yet it lines up perfectly with the sluggish pace of massive scientific outfits. Crunching the numbers drags on. Getting expert nods takes forever. Nobody risks dropping early results that could flop and tarnish reputations. The simplest take, institutional foot-dragging and carefulness, usually nails it. Even so, the schedule feels off. The craft swings by Mars closest on October 3rd. The U.S. shutdown kicks off October 1st, sidelining 15,000 NASA staff. ESA's sole initial shot surfaces on October 7th. At that stage, 3I Atlas is long gone. The chance for close study vanishes, leaving us with mere fragments from what could have been humanity's fullest ever visual record of an extrasolar visitor. Conspiracy or not, the bungling is mind-blowing. But let's circle back to the Mars link from a fresh perspective. Suppose 3 Atlas hails from a long-lost Martian society. What's it scouting? What readings would it take? It could hunt for life traces, like current-day methane bursts, heat shifts, or magnetic oddities hinting at buried colonies or lively geology below. Or maybe it's scanning for old markers, the spots of ancient settlements or bases from eons back, now lost to sand or wear. The remote viewers take on 3 Atlas, sending wake-up beacons to stir sleeping tech slots right in. Underground sites, protected from cosmic rays and weathering, might just need that ping to boot up. Jupiter's frozen satellite Europa joins the mix as another spot in our system with possible hidden seas teeming with organisms. A Mars tech that cracked star travel could have planted bases across planets. 3IE Atlas's path swings by Jupiter come March 2026. Not quite as near as Mars, yet observable. ESA's JUICE probe, en route to the gas giant, aims to track 3I Atlas in November 2025. Should JUICE team up with NASA's Europa Clipper, also bound for Jupiter's realm, we could spot if 3 Atlas tweaks its route, drops payloads, or acts like it's probing key sites rather than just cruising by. Proof of Mars' past livability piles up steadily. Fresh looks at Earth-found Martian rocks have spotted organic bits, intricate carbon setups tied to biology here. The Curiosity and Perseverance robots have bored into lake-bottom stones, uncovering traces matching tiny organism processes. It doesn't confirm past life, but it confirms the setup: flowing water, steady climates, energy for biology. Jumping from bugs to brains and gadgets demands eons of growth without disasters. Unless the wipeout hit after smarts arose, after societies formed, after they gazed at the stars and pondered the cosmos beyond. Brandenburg's isotope markers don't spread evenly over Mars. They cluster in certain zones, pointing to targeted rather than broad planetary shifts. These anomalies point to localized incidents. Everyday geological forces like volcanic activity, asteroid strikes that unearthed buried layers with varying isotope profiles, or atmospheric dynamics beyond our current grasp could account for them. Yet such accounts rely on unlikely alignments. A series of improbable occurrences yielding traces that mimic the byproducts of nuclear reactions. Occam's razor, favoring the least complicated interpretation as the truth, works in dual directions here. Does it demand less imagination to invent obscure natural mechanisms, or to consider that Mars once supported a society that faced a brutal demise? And should that downfall have occurred, what force or entity triggered it? Brandenburg's theory opens the door to outside intervention, perhaps an assault by rivals from elsewhere in the solar system or farther afield. The consequences boggle the mind. It suggests a dark forest reality, where sophisticated societies neutralize emerging rivals preemptively. It implies that 3i Atlas, if linked to this forgotten strife, could represent a remnant, a device, or a cautionary signal. It hints at our midst littered with the debris of interstellar conflicts we fail to grasp, wandering through a stellar cemetery, oblivious to the powers sculpting the worlds we're just starting to probe. Alternatively, it could mean Brandenburg's ideas missed the mark. Those isotope patterns stem from mundane causes. Mars never nurtured sentient beings, and 3i Atlas's path skirting the rusty world is pure happenstance. A mere fluke in the vast universe, where paths inevitably brush against notable objects. Still, even if he's off on the origins, Brandenburg nails the outcomes. In relative geological timescales, Mars shed its air in a dramatic fashion. It once flowed with rivers and offered spots ripe for life. Today, it stands mute, crimson and barren, its voids evoking a spectral chill. And 3i Atlas's route hugging Mars more tightly than any other body in our solar system calls for more than dismissals or nods to probability. The gamma-ray data stands out especially. Instruments like NASA's Fermi Gamma Ray Observatory, alongside others, have charted the high-energy cosmos, spotting bursts from exploding stars, collapsed giants, distant beacons, and intense emitters. Mars registers gamma rays matching routine radioactive breakdown in its rocky shell. However, certain experts have flagged oddities, localized spikes that don't match established terrain. These might arise from observational glitches, viewing perspective issues, or echoes of ancient power surges. Gamma radiation from blasts would have faded eons ago, but the resulting secondary isotopes linger, radiating telltale patterns. Should 3i Atlas pick up these signals across the void, if its tech can chart element spreads over light-year spans, then zeroing in on Mars fits perfectly. Circling back to the origin point, the planet that could hold salvageable archives, inactive bases, biological samples locked in frozen depths, or buried regoliths safe from stellar onslaughts. Gather what's gatherable, stir what slumbers, or merely observe. Document the cradle's condition, and ferry that knowledge onward. The near flyby on October 3rd may have transcended mere scanning. If 3i Atlas broadcasts signals or released microdrones, as certain intuitive scans proposed, the red world would draw them. Compact craft apt for touchdown, slipping into lava channels to reach hidden vaults undetected by our basic rover ops. They'd evade satellite snaps, minuscule, swift, cunningly concealed. We might catch ripples, signal flares, odd vapor jets, shifts in gas levels, yet linking those to extraterrestrial scouts over Martian whims demands a stretch few researchers embrace. Cliff High's claim that we stem from Martian stock weaves into modern panspermia ideas, which have picked up steam lately. If bugs from Mars hitched rides to Earth on space rocks, a pathway confirmed by Martian meteorites we've recovered from ancient ejections here, then those pioneers could have kick-started our biosphere. Thus, earthly and Martian biology trace to the same root, kin diverged across epochs and worlds yet bound. If Mars birthed brains ahead of us, mastered the stars, foresaw its doom, and dispatched seeds or even fledgling groups our way, we're not merely akin, we're heirs. Mars's inheritance pulses in our genes, in our urge to venture and grow, drawing us inexorably to that scarlet orb like heating an ancient summons. This ventures into conjecture, teetering at evidence's brink, yet it rests on solid ground. The universal blueprint of life on Earth, DNA and RNA, the configurations of this interstellar visitor seem extraordinarily refined, as though intentionally crafted instead of emerging from mere chance mutations and natural selection. The concept of panspermia, be it spontaneous or orchestrated, provides a rationale for life's rapid emergence on Earth once the world had cooled sufficiently for liquid water to form, sidestepping the staggering odds of abiogenesis, where life sparks from inert chemical processes. Should Mars have imparted its biological legacy to Earth, and if 3E Atlas is scrutinizing that long-ago transfer, its path and actions align flawlessly. This isn't a casual detour, it's a homecoming. The encounter near Mars marked a colossal lost chance in astronomical annals. With 6 probes circling the planet, various landers on its surface, ample foreknowledge of the inbound anomaly, All we managed was a single fuzzy animated clip and a scattering of hobbyist-enhanced photos. Crucial insights: detailed spectral analysis at peak proximity, radio scans for potential signals, magnetometer scans for engineered EM patterns, thermal imaging to spot energy outputs, when unheated, or at least unrevealed if pursued. Our understanding of 3 Atlas unfolds via omissions, via withheld details, via inconsistencies in the official account that suggest either bungling or deliberate secrecy. Mars stays mute, yielding no resolutions, just escalating enigmas. A planet that could once have nurtured life, witnessed the ascent and decline of minds, served as the cradle for human origins, and possibly acted as the launchpad or waypoint for a cosmic wanderer drawn, or directed, to skim perilously close to its crimson dunes. As 3 Atlas presses onward, hastening to its brush with Jupiter and ultimate departure from the solar system, Mars fades behind in its wake. Yet the link endures, the potential resonates, the ramifications echo. We cannot erase the visions we've caught, cannot dispel the notions that some primordial society and today's intruder might weave into a single tale, a narrative enveloping us, prepared or not for our role within it. Chapter 3, The Shadow Government Hypothesis, October 1st, 2025. A congressional impasse over health subsidies and fiscal reforms triggers a U.S. government closure. 15,000 NASA staff enter furlough status. The organization's site halts fresh content. Outreach divisions fall quiet. 2 days on, 3E Atlas reaches its nearest pass to Mars, presenting humanity's premier chance to study an extrasolar body up close. The alignment proves disastrously precise, fueling doubts. Does this stem from typical administrative inertia, or something more orchestrated? A handy pretext to stall or bury findings from the actual sightings. Speculation in fringe communities has surged since July's initial spotting of 3 Atlas, spanning credible notions to outright delusions. Peel back the wildest assertions, though, and core uncertainties persist without credible public rebuttals. What prompted the shutdown at that exact juncture? Why hold back orbital data from Mars probes for several days, even as the ESA, untangled from American partisan drama, also postponed disclosures? Why did Representative Anna Paulina Luna need to press NASA head Patrick Duffy directly just to confirm that observatories were aimed at 3 Atlas amid the Mars pass? And most disturbingly, why has the insurance sector, which routinely assesses threats from storms to coronal ejections, issued zero commentary on the risks posed by this errant interstellar arrival? The shadow government theory, as outlined by assorted analysts and insiders, posits 3 Atlas as a staged upheaval, an engineered spectacle meant to rationalize draconian steps, worldwide quarantines, seizure of assets, imposition of military rule, centralization of control through crisis decrees. The strategy feels familiar. Regimes have long leveraged outward perils, genuine or fabricated, to broaden their reach and curb liberties. The issue isn't if such tactics occur, records confirm they do. Rather, it's whether 3 Atlas furnishes such a pretext, and if factions in officialdom and spy networks are gearing up to seize it. Consider the shutdown proper. The stated cause: partisan stalemate on internal agendas. Democrats and Republicans deadlocked on budget packages. Yet it kicked off October 1st, right as Mars scrutiny ramps should have peaked. Analysis workflows demanded readiness. Outreach plans required finalization. Research groups needed to sync with international partners. Chaos ensued instead. NASA personnel barred from networks, cut off from viewing timetables, silenced in sharing results. Standard functions that typically persist through halts, like oversight of operational probes, suffered interruptions too. Then, back on August 28th, well ahead of the closure, President Biden issued an executive order. Imagine rebranding NASA as the country's key intelligence and security outfit. The official excuse was pretty hazy, all about syncing up space hazard evaluations and safeguarding vital systems. In reality, though, it means NASA's findings and activities are now locked under strict national defense secrecy rules. Details on what NASA spots, especially anything hinting at dangers, can stay hidden from everyone forever, all in the name of shielding the nation. Pretty opportune moment, right? Overhaul NASA's status just before this weird interstellar visitor hits its prime viewing phase. Then, flip the switch on public access ops right during that time, making sure any discoveries get locked down, sanitized, twisted, or shelved based on whatever fits the plan. On September 30th, the day prior to the blackout, more than 800 top brass from every U.S. military arm got called to the Quantico Marine Corps base. The stated purpose? A standard update. But you don't round up 800 flag officers, generals, and admirals for anything ordinary. These are the big shots, the ones calling the shots, the folks who'd have to align if some emergency plan were in the works. Certain analysts link this meeting to the fresh relabeling of the Department of Defense as the Department of War. An old-school title swap, sure, but it hints at moving from defense mode to full-on attack readiness. What exactly did they cover in that session? No clue. Still, the schedule, 1 day shy of NASA's silence, 2 days from three-eyed Atlas hitting Mars, points to the intruder being the focus. Maybe intel breakdowns on what it really is. Maybe backup strategies if it turns aggressive. Maybe syncing with global allies. Or, getting more sinister, maybe plotting how to shape public views and keep things stable. Suppose three-eyed Atlas is precisely the kind of thing that worries some. A vessel, a scout, a sign of coming talks or clashes. The insurance world's quiet stance stands out most. Those firms have teams of analysts tasked with forecasting dangers and setting rates to match. They crunch numbers on storms, quakes, outbreaks, sunbursts, any mass damage scenario. Lately, they've even woven in global warming for future projections. But three-eyed Atlas, which a Harvard star expert pegs at a 40% shot of being tech-made, with a path slicing our solar system that could, per some sims, let it drop Earth-targeted devices, has sparked not a peep from insurers and public. No reports, no hazard reviews, no tweaks to premiums for space risks. This might signal they've deemed three-eyed Atlas a non-issue, merely a comet, no sweat. Or it could be they've gotten discreet word via backroom lines that avoid records. That airing three-eyed Atlas out loud doesn't help anyone. Spark fear, rattle markets, unleash financial chaos way bigger than any direct hit from the thing itself. Stay mum, stay in charge, let folks think it's just routine cosmic debris. If trouble brews, handle it later. For now, sustain the facade of everyday life. That's fuel for the fake flag ideas. Want to fake an ET assault? Not the genuine article, but one folks buy into? How? Start with a believable off-world menace, vague enough to twist toward whatever story you need. Three-eyed Atlas, with its oddities and mysteries, slots right in. Control the info flow, so only vetted takes hit the masses. The NASA overhaul and pause nail that. Prep the troops without freaking people out, masking buildup as drills. The Quantico huddle covers it. And have tools ready for crisis measures. Quarantines, night rules, travel bans, sold as essential against an unheard of peril. Such presidential directives are already on books, pinned post, 9/11 and refreshed now and then. Project Blue Beam, that 1990s conspiracy staple, sketches this very plot. A faked ET encounter via cutting-edge projections and mind games to fool the world into thinking aliens are attacking or rescuing, paving way for a unified global authority to deal with it. Plenty of experts brush off Blue Beam as over the top, needing tech and teamwork no regime could pull off. Yet core bits, like leveraging an outside danger for power grabs, are classic power plays. Skip the projections if you've got a real cosmic oddball that's truly puzzling. Just steer the story around it. David Wilcock, a prominent researcher and whistleblower who has built a dedicated audience by revealing purported insider details from government insiders, has long cautioned about orchestrated scenarios mimicking alien invasions. His informants outline various backup strategies, including Dyson spheres, enormous man-made constructs that might be depicted as menacing superstructures, and approaching entities such as 3-2 Atlas, which could serve as the central plot device in a major disclosure event. These accounts suggest the aim isn't to conceal evidence of alien life. That truth is already seeping out via numerous avenues. Rather, the intent appears to be shaping the narrative of initial contact to favor entrenched power dynamics. Portray it as a danger instead of a breakthrough. Engineer a catastrophe demanding unified control, not an enlightenment that could shift power away from states as individuals turn their gaze to the stars over earthly rulers. The emergence and trajectory of 3-2 Atlas strike certain observers as oddly timed. Set for July 2025, amid worldwide political turmoil, financial pressures, eroding faith in organizations, surging patriotism clashing with calls for global oversight. This celestial visitor doesn't appear in an era of cohesion and readiness, but one of division and diversion. And should someone seek to leverage a stellar occurrence for geopolitical ends, they prefer a populace that's unsteady, doubtful, and eager for leaders to deliver clarity and protection. The 2020 health crisis strategy illustrated how swiftly societies can adapt to curbs on travel, business, and gatherings when confronted with an unseen peril, one that's baffling and cast as a dire survival issue. 3-2 Atlas mirrors that setup. Undetectable by the naked eye sans observatories, baffling even to specialists, and possibly world-altering if interpretations from low and similar voices hold water. Yet, consider bolstering the counterargument. Perhaps the operational halt stemmed purely from poor scheduling, tied to governance failures unrelated to 3-2 Atlas. NASA's policy shift might arise from genuine worries over orbital dangers, ranging from satellite-destroying arms to meteor collision hazards. Its alignment with 3-2 Atlas could be mere chance. The Quantico session might have addressed a range of disconnected matters, with the 800 senior officers debating funding priorities or defense alignments against ground-based wars. The insurance sector's quietude may reflect assessments of minimal danger or a focus away from cosmic happenings lacking past records of financial fallout. Such rationales hold weight. Bureaucratic blunders outnumber deliberate plots in officialdom. Departments struggle to align. Messages get lost. Key developments evade oversight in red tape mazes. The pause hindering NASA's handling of 3-2 Atlas might simply be what it seems, a chain of regrettable, isolated choices. Still, the alignment endures upon reviewing the timeline. The August presidential directive, the September armed forces update, the October freeze, the postponed disclosures, the unified hush from various countries' space bodies, the absence of reactions from risk assessors. This points to either an unlikely string of flukes or a deliberate push to manage knowledge and ready for unseen scenarios withheld from civilians. Havel, queried on whether NASA and peers are holding back more than they admit, stated plainly in the negative. He chalks up the lags to earthly folly, not cosmic secrets. To him, the closure and ensuing data drought embody human error, devoid of scheming. Lowe, though, harbors a hopeful streak, trusting that research bodies, despite imperfections, chase veracity in the end. Skeptics are harsher, citing past instances of states suppressing data on anomalous sky objects, near misses with atomic arms, or reports clashing with official lines. Thus, if concealment is afoot, what might they be guarding? A theory posits that snapshots from the Mars pass revealed irrefutable signs. Formations on 3-2 Atlas unmistakably crafted by hand, deploying mini-drones, trajectory shifts defying natural vents or poles. Unveiling such without groundwork, sans a public digestion plan, minus global alignment on handling, risks chaos. Financial systems might collapse as folks doubt long-term strategies amid possible interstellar encounters. Faith groups could splinter facing unforeseen truths. Civic stability might crumble as norms lose hold on the cusp of stellar meddling. Alternatively, the visuals depicted routine oddities, verifying 3-2 Atlas as merely an eccentric comet, and that the reluctance to share data stems from sluggish administrative procedures rather than any overly delicate material that's unfit for disclosure. Here, those spinning conspiracy tales are imposing order on random fluctuations, detecting orchestration amid mere disorder, and blaming ill intent for what incompetence alone accounts for. Reality, as usual, probably lies midway between these extremes. Certain details are indeed being held back, not as evidence of extraterrestrials, but because sharing initial findings that could be misconstrued poses greater hazards than postponing until results are solid. One thing's certain, folks are eager for updates, and without clear official openness, wild speculations take root and grow. The bold move by Representative Luna underscores this perfectly. She hails from a Florida area that includes the Kennedy Space Center, where residents have a strong passion for cosmic ventures. During the NASA blackout tied to the shutdown, she reached out directly to the head, insisting that efforts be directed toward monitoring 3I Atlas. Her push led to telescopes being redirected and observations being gathered that might have otherwise been missed. This exemplifies effective public watchdogging, an official stepping in to make sure government bodies prioritize citizens' needs, despite bureaucratic drag or hidden agendas that could sidetrack vital efforts. Yet Luna's reach is just one thread, her sway confined. Should factions in NASA, the armed forces, or spy networks aim to bury discoveries on 3I Atlas, no lone lawmaker could halt them. Secrecy rules, defense barriers, deals between departments that outrank legislative checks, all offer tools for hiding truths. The populace gets fed only what's deemed harmless or strategically useful, while the bulk stays locked away until a future whistleblower or final hour admission drags it out years down the line. Elon Musk's quiet on 3I Atlas raises eyebrows too. As head of SpaceX, he runs a fleet of thousands of Starlink satellites, dreams of settling Mars, and often weighs in on celestial happenings and orbital policies. Still, he stayed mum in public about 3I Atlas, even though it's potentially the biggest sky spectacle in 10 years. Perhaps he views it as trivial, merely a comet unworthy of notice. Or maybe guidance came down that touching the subject would stir unease or fuel fringe ideas. Or, more tantalizingly, he might hold deeper insights via SpaceX packs and clearance levels to non-public intel, and figures that holding his tongue aligns better with his goals than speaking out. The notion of a staged event, that 3I Atlas might serve as a pretext for a scripted scheme, doesn't demand the thing itself be fabricated. It only needs the reaction to it twisted, real doubts and valid worries turned into tools for advancing agendas. Should 3I Atlas simply glide by without incident, the steps taken in response, the watching, the crisis authorities, the worldwide teamwork setups, won't vanish. They'll embed themselves, turning into fixtures of oversight that linger well past the trigger event. That's the strategic calculus behind leveraging upheavals. Foster or permit setups ripe for panic, roll out fixes for the panic, then keep those fixes in place forever, citing endless risks ahead. It's the path by which short-term war rules harden into everyday rules, by which urgent decrees morph into routine protocols. 3I Atlas, be it comet or vessel, masks tweaks to worldwide control systems, boosts in monitoring, troop buildups that could draw pushback without some outside spark. Alternatively, and we must consider this angle, those gearing up might simply be handling things right, evaluating an odd star traveler as a possible danger, sealing info pending clarity, rallying defense chiefs for scenario planning. Building crisis plans for dire possibilities represents smart handling. Perhaps we ought to appreciate that authorities are treating 3I Atlas with gravity, even if that gravity shows up as guardedness and restriction over candor and involvement. The issue is, externally, solid readiness and scheming abuse appear the same until results expose motives, and by that point, pushback may be impossible if the motives were foul. Coming events will shed light on plenty. As 3I Atlas swings back into view from solar shadow in December, becomes visible once more, and fresh details arrive, it will become clear if the groups and bodies guarding data currently, whether explanations come forward, whether the public gets the full story or stays in the shadows. Should openness emerge, with clear images and straightforward evaluations of what 3I Atlas represents and its implications, the holdup could simply be chalked up to standard procedures, no matter how aggravating. But if the quiet persists, if information stays locked away, if just polished overviews trickle out while key specifics remain concealed, then suspicions of hidden agendas and staged deceptions grow tougher to brush aside. December will reveal not only the truth behind 3I Atlas, but also the nature of our current reality. A world where authorities uphold citizens' access to knowledge, or one where they prioritize motives that demand the masses stay uninformed, submissive, and managed. Chapter 4. Hidden Space Initiatives. Suppose 3I Atlas isn't coming in from deep space between stars, but heading back from an expedition that kicked off years or even ages past. Imagine the item isn't unknown, but recognizable, not from elsewhere, but tied to our own past in manners that accepted accounts ignore. This idea feels like pure fantasy at first glance, but it gains traction when you look at the steady stream of insiders' reports, the odd voids in official space records, and the odd tech breakthroughs hinting that our reach into the cosmos goes well past what's admitted publicly. Solar Warden. That term crops up in released files, in statements from armed forces and spy agency members, and in assertions from cyber intruders who supposedly tapped into secure systems. The narrative holds that back in the 1980s, after years of hushed teamwork with off-world groups or tech salvage from downed craft recoveries, the U.S., along with partner countries, built a clandestine cosmic armada. Not just orbiters or reusable rockets, but true seafaring-style ships able to function past our planet's pull, handling extended voyages to the solar system's edges and maybe even to close-by suns. The accounts pile up to the point where rejecting every one means picturing a vast conspiracy or collective madness. Gary McKinnon, the UK coder who cracked into American defense systems around the early 2000s, says he spotted lists of off-planet crew, vessel-to-vessel shifts, and craft labels that matched nothing in the regular naval or aerial inventories. He came close to being shipped off for trial on penalties that might have locked him away for years, implying his intrusions hit real nerves. What he described, unlimited power sources, gravity-defying engines, signs of bases on Luna and the Red Planet, lines up with reports from other leakers, even without any links to them. Corey Good, yet another voice in these circles, insists he worked in a covert orbital operation for 2 decades, joining trips to the Fourth Rock, dealings with various spacefarers, and activities spanning the sun's domain. His stories touch on pacts between earthly groups and tall, light-haired Nordics or Pleiadian types, human-like figures with superior gear, yet committed to hands-off approaches and slowly rousing human awareness. Good's tales can't be checked easily, muddied by ties to folks pushing questionable mystical ideas. Yet parts echo across sources, pointing to either a common legend or actual shared involvement in a buried effort. Linking 3 Atlas to Solar Warden or akin ventures suggests the thing was sent out long ago, maybe in the 1960s amid the peak of frosty rivalry's orbital hush, tasked with probing beyond our system, hunting livable spots, or linking up with signals picked up by wave detectors. Powered by drives kept under wraps, like nuclear fusion or wilder setups that skip traditional fuel, the vehicle hit speeds making it seem like an inbound interstellar visitor, though really it's circled the far orbits or local stars and is circling back. Why show up today? Maybe the itinerary called for a timed return. Maybe it picked up signals needing planetary warning, a danger, a chance, intel from its path that overseers must fold into bigger schemes. Maybe trouble struck and it's hobbling in, hurt or drained, unfit to finish and calling for pickup. Or maybe this fits a managed reveal plan, letting the vessels come back ease out the Black Ops fleet's reality, posed as a find instead of a confession, dodging the uproar from owning up to generations of deceit and secret budgets. The accuracy of 3 Atlas. This idea gains traction when examining its flight path. The object's route across the inner solar system, which mirrors the orbits of planets and swings by Mars and Jupiter, suggests intentional steering over mere chance wanderings in space. Those metallic signals, pure nickel absent any iron, may not stem from ordinary venting, but from engine exhaust tied to fusion or fission processes, producing odd isotopic patterns that defy standard comet studies. Without the usual comet tail, and with that leading shimmer spotted in Hubble photos, it might actually be a propulsion exhaust glow instead of sunlight warming icy surfaces. The link to Nordic or Pleiadian origins deepens the intrigue. For decades, accounts from contactees and abductees have detailed meetings with entities matching this profile, who say they're from the Pleiades star cluster, about 400 to 450 light-years away from our world. These visitors often come across as helpful, worried about human progress, especially our nukes and ecological harm, delivering cautions and advice. Should such a society be real and keeping tabs on Earth, perhaps working undercover with our governments or armed forces, then 3i Atlas could represent a shared effort, a scouting device built and operated by humans and Nordics alike, dispatched for intel collection and now heading back with results. This explanation sheds light on why officials handle 3i Atlas with such a blend of hush-hush tactics and unease. If it's partly ours, owning up to its origins would expose unauthorized initiatives, bankrolled via hidden funds and shadowy ops, harnessing tech that could transform power sources and travel, but also upend industries reliant on oil and old-school aviation. The fallout in economics, politics, and society would be staggering, giving those profiting from the status quo every reason to suppress or steer any upheaval. Red Sky pops up in related whispers as another initiative, maybe an earlier version or side project to Solar Warden. The info's fuzzier, yet the core story holds that from the 1950s onward, post-Roswell and other supposed wreck recoveries, the U.S. dove into back-engineering alien gear, scoring wins in drives, materials, and power tech. Come the 1970s, those advances were ready for basic outings past the moon. In this telling, Apollo was just a smokescreen, flaunting a basic slice of our space skills to the masses, while the true ventures unfolded in the shadows with vehicles free from rocket fuel. Apollo 20, rumored to have happened in 1976 without any public nod, supposedly touched down on the moon's hidden side to probe a downed ship scene in satellite shots. The team allegedly uncovered a massive, stretched artifact half-sunk, bearing signs of man-made design. Details like its cigar-like, jointed shell and metal makeup echo reports on 3i Atlas, fueling theories that the lunar wreck and this solar system visitor hail from the same alien blueprint, likely the same societal endeavor. The purported Apollo 20 video, dumped online and debated as real or fake artistry, depicts probing the wreck's insides, revealing gadgets and even a stasis-preserved entity. If accurate, if we salvaged a lunar ship, mimicked its design, launched our take, and it's looping home now, 3i Atlas marks the peak of a century-spanning covert space push. It implies extraterrestrial contact didn't kick off with 3i Atlas's 2025 entry, but may trace back generations through wrecks, grabs, deals, and partnerships kept from the public eye. The push for UFO openness, the Defense Department's nod to unexplained sky events, the setup of teams and probes, all might pave the way for dropping truths on ventures like Solar Warden and items like 3i Atlas. John Vivano, a seeker into the esoteric and radio personality, spins a naughtier tale of rival alien groups with hidden space efforts squeezed between them. Drawing from purported leaks and experiencers, his take has 3i Atlas under the sway of reptilian aliens, figures from old myths and fresh abduction tales painted as aggressive or at least ego-driven, driven by conquest and staying alive. These entities are said to be wrapped up in a dispute involving Nordic and Pleiadian groups, along with other entities, centers on dominating Earth and its inhabitants, treating people more like assets to exploit than beings worth elevating. Within this framework, initiatives like Solar Warden and comparable efforts serve in part to safeguard planetary concerns amid this larger struggle, functioning somewhat like an interstellar patrol that tracks activity across the solar system, blocks unsanctioned entries, and bargains with diverse alien influences to preserve some level of independence for humanity. The appearance of 3i Atlas at this moment could signal a ramp-up from reptilian influences, a scouting effort probing planetary safeguards, or an endeavor to reconnect with operatives or installations situated on or under the planet's surface. That October pass by Mars may have aimed at inspecting outposts or subterranean sites from Mars's livable era, confirming those resources are still functional or accessible. This storyline remains beyond confirmation or refutation based on current data, dwelling firmly in the domain of unverified accounts. Yet it provides a rationale for the apparent shared alarm and lack of readiness among various nations toward 3-2 Atlas. Should it tie into a recognized clash, a foreseen progression in a persistent scenario, the reaction indicates tactical maneuvering over outright surprise. If it's truly unforeseen, despite years of purported covert space endeavors, that implies such operations either aren't real or they've been caught off guard by an element beyond their surveillance. An alternative viewpoint draws from studies of the Galactic Federation notion, positing that sophisticated societies build collaborative alliances for shared gains and universal oversight. Here, 3-2 Atlas isn't merely a vessel from one group, but a hub, a roaming base employed by numerous cultures for anchoring, maintenance, information sharing, and joint planning. Accounts from remote viewers mentioning reptilian, avian, and crystalline beings aboard the craft align with this idea of a diverse orbital outpost. The craft enters our solar neighborhood not for direct engagement with our world, but as a handy waypoint on paths linking key locales, akin to a pit stop along a galactic expressway. Should humanity's hidden space initiatives have reached beyond our system, perhaps to adjacent stars or the Oort cloud, they'd probably run into these Federation relay vessels. First encounters could date back generations, sparking talks on our planet's role, whether inclusion or isolation in Federation affairs, guidelines for our evolution, and limits on their involvement. The ongoing transit of 3-2 Atlas might signify a routine review, a team assessing our advancement, checking if we've hit milestones in tech and societal growth that could earn us a spot in the wider interstellar network. A deeper look at the exhaust pattern merits attention. 3-2 Atlas is shedding substance, evident from Hubble imagery capturing matter drifting sunward from the body. Yet its path stays steady, meaning the ejection must be even, distributed uniformly across directions for zero overall push, or the craft's immense size renders the expelled gas's impetus insignificant. One estimate pegs the mass above 33 billion tons to fit the equations for spontaneous venting. However, if the releases stem not from venting but deliberate maneuvering, say, fusion thrusters, ion drives, or novel tech, the force might be aimed, allowing minor adjustments that hold the exact route we're seeing. That demands onboard smart systems, just as you'd anticipate from a piloted or automated vessel. The makeup of the emissions bolsters this. Releasing only pure nickel, sans iron, strikes as odd chemically for a comet, where you'd anticipate a blend mirroring cosmic fusion ratios. But in a fusion engine relying on targeted isotopes, the leftovers would mirror the input materials and process, possibly yielding nickel-heavy output. Certain cutting-edge fusion ideas incorporate nickel variants. Though we haven't cracked those on our world, a society with ages or eons of progress absolutely might. Lacking iron could thus be no oddity needing excuses, but a marker revealing the drive's nature, a telltale sign declaring, this is engineered. This is directed. For a solar warden sortie dispatched in the 1960s or 1970s and circling back today, speeds of roughly 1 to 5% of light velocity would be needed, varying by the span covered. That's past any admitted capabilities, but feasible via ideas like fusion impulse systems, antimatter-boosted fusion, or notions surfacing in restricted studies. The trip duration would span decades, calling for crew stasis or other endurance methods. Designs for multi-generational vessels or AI-managed operations with little to no human personnel represent one possibility. The absence of visible harm on 3 Atlas, along with its steady path and lack of erratic gas leaks, points to either exceptional durability or ongoing upkeep throughout its voyage, which hints at operational machinery still in play. Should this turn out to be a returning asset from our own programs, it implies that Earth-based overseers, perhaps in a fortified bunker hidden amid peaks or arid expanses, have been monitoring its progress, gathering data streams, and maybe even exchanging signals with the dormant entity or beings inside. The veil of confidentiality and the postponed sharing of findings aren't aimed at concealing some mystery outright. Rather, they're about orchestrating the unveiling of that mystery, determining the manner and timing for acknowledging decades of genuine deep space endeavors. Technologies capable of resolving fuel shortages, facilitating voyages between stars, and reshaping society have apparently been concealed, driven by motives of dominance, financial gain, and regulation. The profound implications of such a scenario carry heavy emotional resonance. If accurate, it validates the sacrifices of every spacefarer who braved primitive propellant-driven launches. It affirms the insights of researchers dismissed for deeming warp-speed journeys unattainable. It vindicates the dreamers mocked for proposing ambitions beyond official narratives. Their convictions held true, and the withholding was intentional. Solutions to avert environmental disasters, eradicate global energy deprivation from masses, and venture into the stars already exist, yet they're guarded by an elite group that thrives on limitations and restrictions. The awe and motivation sparked by cosmic discovery have been deliberately muted. The edge of exploration remains tantalizingly out of grasp to sustain reliance on terrestrial hierarchies. Yet this could also signal an impending disclosure. 3E Atlas, regardless of whether it stems from covert human initiatives, is sparking vital dialogues on feasibility, concealment, and human potential. Its peculiarities defy standard explanations from comet studies, breeding mental tension that invites consideration of other options. Viewing disclosure as a gradual unfolding rather than a single moment positions 3E Atlas as a pivotal trigger, an undeniable marker shifting discourse from conjecture to validation. Once that validation arrives, if we discover that artifacts like this belong to us, have always been ours, the focus shifts from identification to application of that insight. The involvement of the Nordic Alliance, assuming it's legitimate, indicates that humankind isn't isolated in countering adverse alien agendas. Narratives of clashes between reptilian and Nordic entities, when freed from charged labels, echo recurring motifs in extraterrestrial policy studies. Rival groups with contrasting views on meddling, subjugation against liberty, authority against partnership. Nordics are said to champion human independence and slow enlightenment, offering tools and counsel without enforcing dominance. Reptilians, or their true equivalents, allegedly function within rigid dominance frameworks where power dictates justice and the powerful subjugate the vulnerable. These represent not ethical verdicts but tactical approaches, and any clandestine space efforts partnering with Nordic elements would embody a deliberate stance on the universe we aspire to join and the society we aim to forge. The transit of 3 Atlas across our system could serve as an examination of that stance. Do we possess sufficient awareness to identify it? Are we cohesive enough for a unified reply? Have we evolved enough to embrace reality, no matter its form? Or do we persist in splintering along partisan lines, fixated on narrative ownership over its disclosures? If secret space operations are real, they function within a framework where these dilemmas have been resolved via deeds. They've initiated outreach. They've brokered deals. They've picked alliances. The broader populace, left in the dark, has lacked such chances. 3 Atlas now extends one. An invitation to gaze skyward, pose the tough inquiries, insist on openness, and acknowledge that the cosmos we imagined is narrower, more naive, and less aware than the one that truly unfolds. The idea of an interstellar relay outpost merits further examination, as it clarifies various inconsistencies. If 3 Atlas qualifies as enormous, measured in kilometers, accommodating diverse life forms, and acting as a nomadic hub for activities spanning vast cosmic reaches, then its route near our system has nothing to do with us specifically. Humanity appears as mere peripheral scenery, an underdeveloped society on a fringe planet conveniently positioned by a practical resupply or information-sharing hub. Distant observers noting bustling chambers, varied beings, and advanced setups are likely witnessing a vibrant orbital outpost, a galactic consulate where assorted societies team up on endeavors that stretch across star systems and epochs beyond our comprehension. Under this view, initiatives like Solar Warden or their counterparts have long since connected with these relay vessels, set up guidelines for nearing and interacting, and possibly even dispatched crew members on board. The veil of secrecy doesn't conceal the mere presence of 3i Atlas. Rather, it hides our species' deep entanglement with it. We're not isolated in the cosmos as the masses have been led to believe, far from it. Official narratives insist that we're solitary, that venturing to distant stars lies generations ahead, and that encounters with extraterrestrials are mere speculation. Unmasking this truth would demand accounting for the cover-up itself, the origins of advanced tech, the pacts forged in shadows, and the unchecked authority wielded by shadowy factions in defense and spy agencies, bypassing democratic consent on matters that shape our collective fate. Thus, 3i Atlas's reappearance marks no sudden intrusion but a routine rendezvous, a milestone in a long-standing alliance. The surge in vigilance could stem from an unprecedented twist in this encounter, perhaps a diplomatic envoy seeking concessions, an evaluation in progress, or a pivotal juncture where secret talks will steer our world's course. By enforcing a media blackout and data lockdown, Authorities aim to shape events during 3i Atlas's transit, framing them to align with palatable stories that safeguard entrenched power, all while nodding to emerging truths. This angle on the clandestine aerospace initiative feels profoundly disquieting. It's not about a maiden brush with otherworldly beings. It's the realization that such brushes have defined our history. Yet the custodians of this intel deem ordinary people unfit for the full picture, fearing our volatility. They'd say our clamor for reform would upend everything. Our fury at the duplicity, too corrosive for pillars of society reliant on our trust and obedience. In this light, 3i Atlas serves as a stark reflection, not unveiling cosmic visitors, but exposing our own duality. We're a race of bold innovators and trailblazers, yet equally prone to elaborate lies and iron-fisted oversight. We strain toward the heavens, but invisible bonds of non-disclosure tether the vast majority earthbound. Chapter 5, Foretold Insights and Chronologies. December 2025 surfaces repeatedly in seer-like insights, clairvoyant probes, relayed insights from ethereal guides, and dire alerts from everyone from spy experts to mystical intuitives. It emerges not as some fuzzy prophecy, but as a precise turning point, a juncture where realities diverge, where the probabilistic fluxes of quantum theory solidify into irreversible paths. Why does this month loom so large? 3i Atlas swings back into view from solar seclusion, accessible once more to terrestrial watchers, slipping into a phase ripe for spotting maneuvers, launches, or transmissions. Yet the oracular emphasis hints at deeper layers beyond celestial mechanics, a happening, a crossroads, an unveiling that rewrites the script. The predictive unit, which deploys skilled clairvoyants to scan likely tomorrows instead of current or historical scenes, ran in-depth explorations on 3i Atlas. Their reports brim with end-times motifs, not symbolic ruin, but vivid depictions of electromagnetic chaos, ionized bursts, sky anomalies defying meteorological norms. The seers recount observing 3i Atlas deploying compact entities during its closest solar approach. Scores or multitudes of drone-like vessels that harness solar pull for inverted orbital boosts, whipping toward the solar system's core at speeds beyond standard Engine's grasp. In these glimpses, the diminutive scouts bypass collision with our planet, infiltrating the magnetosphere, that shielding dome forged by our world's magnetic shield. There, they engage the ionized layer, electrified matter in the Van Allen zone's sparks chain responses, birthing global light shows akin to polar lights, dazzling even near the tropics. Initially enchanting, hypnotic, but the impacts escalate. Devices glitch not via outright pulse blasts like atomic blasts, but through generated flows in extended wiring, electrical webs, telecom grids, any setup bridging expanses. The interference proves targeted, honing in on built environments while sparing living organisms, implying surgical intent over blind havoc. The prognosticators outline a branching moment post-phenomenon. One route sees us viewing the interference as invasion, reacting in panic, triggering defense measures, striving to intercept or neutralize the intruders, spiraling into strife against a foe beyond comprehension and counter. This route breeds escalating turmoil, social fracture as networks stay dark, shortages igniting clashes, the fragile shell of order shattering beneath strains it was never built to endure. The grim isolation model unfolds. First touch spells doom, since we framed it as battle from the outset. In the alternate path, the interference gets perceived as rather than an assault. The electromagnetic disruption seems like a deliberate calibration or offering. Its targeted application stands out. Shielding vital life support gear and medical devices proves feasible, yet tainted financial grids and monitoring setups remain exposed, pointing to purposeful selectivity. An entity or force appears to be wiping the slate clean, dismantling the poisonous grip of tech reliance and pushing toward grassroots, sturdy, people-centered structures. In this scenario, the early chaos evolves into resourceful adjustment. Neighborhoods band together, forgotten abilities resurface, and once links reconnect, they operate under fresh rules, decentralized, harder to manipulate, prioritizing human flourishing over business gains. The trajectory that unfolds hinges on decisions in the chaotic early hours, especially from influencers who mold the story and steer actions. Should armed forces cast it as aggression, the public will echo that view. Should experts and envoys present it as outreach, new possibilities emerge. Projections indicate December as the pivotal moment for this divide to solidify. Whatever 3i Atlas unleashes then, our response will dictate the reality we step into. This weighs profoundly. Blending probability models with foretellings, quantum multiplicity extended to societal and governance results. Yet it intensifies. Certain distant perceivers not only glimpse the split, but dwell within both strands at once, grappling with the clash of clashing destinies intertwining. They note time seepage, where December occurrences ripple back into prior periods, sparking foresight and alerting the attuned to the reverberation prior to its origin. Such a dynamic might account for the odd alignment of diverse reports zeroing in on December absent solid logic. They're sensing outcomes ahead of triggers, the pathway projecting a retroactive shade via chronology that emerges as oracular assurance. Charisma magazine, catering to Pentecostal and charismatic Christian circles, ran pieces linking 3i Atlas to end times forecasts. Scriptural depictions of the planet's closing chapter ahead of godly reckoning and rebirth. The resemblances are compelling to the point that even doubters of faith-based readings concede the motif alignment. The Book of Revelation outlines celestial omens, celestial bodies plummeting earthward, astral upheavals heralding Christ's advent, or the ultimate clash of righteousness and wickedness. 3i Atlas manifesting overhead, observable across borders, displaying actions defying conventional physics, mirrors that motif. The terminal era lens need not imply outright cataclysm. Theologically, apocalypse signifies disclosure, exposure, the concealed brought to light. 3i Atlas functioning as apocalypse might signify it exposes realities that close one epoch and usher in the next. Unveiling alien awareness or cutting-edge earthly orbital initiatives or primordial ties to Mars could deliver such a worldview shatter that the subsequent era bears no likeness to what came prior. Foretellings turn self-realizing not via otherworldly meddling, but via the mental and communal shifts sparked when foundational notions of humanity's cosmic role shatter. Certain seers and faith groups portray 3i Atlas as a heavenly operative craft. Machinery so sophisticated it mimics wonders, guided by entities performing celestial roles, regardless of whether their roots lie in spacefaring biology over the divine. The communique channeled via CERN Gateway, per Sebastian Martin's account. Our arrival is peaceful, to collect the star seeds, echoing scriptural gathering motifs, sifting the worthy from the worthless, assembling the devoted as the flawed order crumbles. Whether taken word for word as a lifting away occurrence or figuratively as an ascent in awareness, winnowing the prepared for enlightenment from those mired in outdated mindsets, the blueprint echoes ancient visionary templates spanning millennia. The luminous spheres that seers and divine informants depict 3i Atlas deploying fulfill varied roles in these outlooks. Pragmatically, they're said to disarm covert military armaments, orbital platforms with beam weaponry, atomic deployment arrays, devices posing risks to the visitor or sparking irreparable strife. Metaphysically, though, they're framed as awakeners of perception, broadcasting vibrations that rouse latent genetic codes, enhance third-eye activity, erode divides between tangible and intangible realms. Here, rigorous empiricism and mystical insight converge, where assertions evade verification since they touch personal, inward shifts beyond gadget quantification. The notion of star seeds demands clarification. Within modern spiritual and encounter narratives, star seeds denote essences or awarenesses that took form on our world from alternative stellar souls from distant planetary realms opt to immerse themselves in human existence, aiding Earth's spiritual growth or acquiring insights unique to our dense physical world. These individuals often sense a profound disconnection, yearning for a distant homeland that eludes clear memory, while feeling an irresistible pull toward the cosmos and celestial bodies, fueled by a mysterious sense of longing. Should 3 Atlas serve as a collector of these star seeds, it suggests a sophisticated detection mechanism, capable of discerning cosmic-born awareness from those rooted in earthly development, with aims to retrieve, awaken, or merely affirm their presence. Viewed through a materialistic perspective, where mind is merely a byproduct of neural processes and nothing survives beyond the flesh, such ideas appear utterly ridiculous. Yet, from an idealist standpoint, positing awareness as the core essence from which material existence arises, these notions gain a coherent footing. If mind can persist without reliance on organic vessels, then shifting between forms, worlds, or even alternate realities turns plausible in theory. Star seeds, in this view, represent essences that once thrived in other realms, navigated varied existences, and chose embodiment here for targeted missions. Identifying them demands no genetic probing, but rather attuning to vibrational imprints, distinct traces of past journeys etched into one state of being. Regardless of whether this holds truth or weaves an intricate legend, its role remains unchanged. Such stories offer a structure for grappling with unusual personal encounters, fostering a sense of unity with the universe instead of solitude on our planet, and instilling faith that existence transcends mere endurance and procreation. Prophecies surrounding December, foretelling broadened awareness, the assembly of star seeds, instill optimism that today's hardships won't endure forever, that transformation looms, and that the oppressive regimes shackling humankind are fleeting constructs destined to crumble under influences they can't command. Psychologically, this carries immense weight, even absent empirical proof, since convictions influence actions, and actions mold realities. Communications from the Galactic Federation station, relayed via diverse mediums, but prominently through the GFL station YouTube channel, highlight an uplifting take on 3 Atlas. These relayed insights claim the entity is emitting Lyron genetic patterns, energizing protocols that amplify those harboring latent alien lineages or mental blueprints. In this worldview, Lyrians rank as one of the galaxy's most ancient humanoid societies, forebears to numerous modern cosmic lineages, such as the Pleiadians and perhaps early inhabitants of Mars. If these Lyrian signals are disseminating, it signals a revival of ancestral ties, the revival of latent skills and perceptions stifled or lost amid Earth's isolation phase, cut off from the wider interstellar network. The messengers portray December as the climax of these emissions, when our world's alignment with 3 Atlas fosters ideal pathways for absorbing the waves, prompting those receptive enough to undergo abrupt elevations in perception, resolution of bodily and emotional wounds, emergence of intuitive gifts, and realignment with their core mission. This lends itself to personal verification. Should vast numbers report abrupt shifts come December, or recoveries exceed expected probabilities, or novel talents arise unbidden, it could hold water. Still, on a societal scale, it's resistant to refutation, as inner transformations defy objective denial. They're either embraced or rejected. George Cavasilas, a key figure exploring these domains, situates 3 Atlas in a saga of planetary emancipation from malevolent alien dominions. He depicts today's ruling classes as marionettes or amalgam entities beholden to extraterrestrial overlords who've long treated Earth as a captivity site, a harvest ground, or a testing ground across ages. 3 Atlas's emergence marks aid from compassionate coalitions, the celestial equivalents of white knights in an interstellar struggle, poised to unravel the webs of domination and empower us to chart our collective destiny. The associated plasma occurrences and magnetic disturbances would zero in on the machinery of subjugation. Orbital watchers tracking our moves, economic webs trapping us in indebtedness, media conduits sowing discord and misinformation. This storyline inspires individuals to view themselves as active participants in the uprising, not helpless targets of inexorable fate. It also delineates stark adversaries, the Cabal, the Shadow Government, hostile extraterrestrials, and steadfast supporters, like the Galactic Federation, Nordic lineages, and 3 Atlas proper. Such ethical sharpness proves seductive following eras of ambiguous international maneuvering, where all sides profess virtue while branding rivals as villains. Yet, this black-and-white framing risks distorting complexities into false dichotomies, where existence unfolds in gradients. The peril in such visionary tales lies in their potential to foster passivity, awaiting otherworldly rescuers instead of forging our own remedies. The idea of splintering timelines warrants deep contemplative scrutiny, even if its principles are still theoretical. In quantum mechanics, superposition allows particles to occupy several states at once until an observation forces them into one definite result. Extending this to the larger scale of everyday life implies that possible futures linger as clusters of likelihoods, with various paths unfolding until our actions narrow them down to a single reality. Those who engage in remote viewing might tap into these clusters of probabilities, viewing diverse futures as all valid since, from a quantum viewpoint, they truly are, right up until the wave function resolves. Should this hold true, the precision of prophecies wouldn't demand a fixed destiny ahead, but rather the ability to spot likely paths and relay them back in time to guide decisions that steer which path becomes real. This turns prophecy into a self-defeating puzzle. It's spot on when it alerts us to the fallout of sticking to the status quo, yet off base if that alert spurs shifts that dodge the predicted result. The notion of December as a pivotal moment fits neatly here, as it's when the three-eye atlas shines brightest and stirs most intensely, compelling existence itself to settle on one sequence of happenings that hardens into the record of events. The 2027 timeline highlighted by future prediction teams and various accounts builds on this as a follow-up focal point. If December 2025 marks the initial crossroads, with early actions and encounter possibilities, then 2027 signals the solidification of repercussions. The reality emerging from those December decisions turns impossible to overlook. Observers depict 2027 as profoundly altered based on the timeline fork selected. It could yield a thriving, abundance-sharing society or brutal skirmishes over scant resources in a Mad Max-style collapse. The span from December 2025 to late 2027 gives enough room for those starting choices to ripple across networks, for chains of events to topple, for cycles of response to magnify tiny variations into vast splits. How should we handle this wealth of prophetic insights? Brush it off as mere fantasy, where the mind plugs gaps with symbols and dreams. That's feasible, yet it fails to account for the striking overlap among unrelated sources, the pinpoint focus on the December schedule, or the ties to celestial occurrences unknown during the era of certain ancient forecasts. Treat it as a straight-up forecast of tangible happenings? Risky. Such a direct reading fosters inaction, lulling people into expecting outside fixes instead of owning the task of molding results. The balanced approach might involve acknowledging these visions as charts of potential realms, not guarantees, outlining what might unfold based on shared decisions. They offer glimpses of imaginable tomorrows meant to motivate or caution, not a blueprint to obey, but outlines to weigh, like markers in evaluating dangers and nurturing optimism. December arrives regardless of our faith in the prophecies. No matter if we gear up or brush them aside, if we regard the three-eye atlas as peril, boon, or nonsense, our handling of those insights dictates which vision, if any, rings true. Not through the vision dictating events, but via how we react to it influencing the paths that produce the end result. Chapter 6. The Dark Forest Conundrum. Picture the galaxy as a nighttime woodland, immense and timeless, teeming with creatures yet cloaked in shadow. Each society plays both stalker and quarry, knowing that broadcasting its whereabouts could lure dangerous scrutiny. In this setup, the wisest tactic is quietude, blending in, navigating the gloom stealthily without emitting noises or glows that attract threats. That's the dark forest hypothesis, Liu Cixin's refined yet chilling answer to Fermi's paradox. The puzzle of why, in a cosmos ancient and vast enough for intelligence to abound, we detect no clear traces of extraterrestrial minds. The numbers add up simply. Our Milky Way holds about 200 billion stars, plenty host planets, a portion in life-friendly orbits. Even cautious odds on life's emergence point to millions of worlds ripe for biology. On our planet, life evolved sophistication and smarts across billions of years. The universe clocks in at almost 14 billion years, our galaxy shaping up over 12 billion ago. Societies that emerged just a million years prior to ours, a mere instant on the stellar clock, would wield tech beyond our wildest dreams. They ought to stand out, their megastructures scannable, their transmissions saturating the void. Instead, we encounter only quiet. The grand hush. The dark forest idea unravels this via strategic logic. When intentions of others remain unknown, benign, or malign, and superior tech lets evolved societies wipe out lesser ones with ease, any encounter poses a survival threat. Remote evaluation of motives proves impossible. Bargaining from inferiority is futile. Defense against overwhelming force falls short. The surest play is staying concealed. Wiping out any society, you spot them coming before they notice you, and wipe you out in the process. The cosmos feels barren, but that's only because anyone who's stuck around has mastered the art of staying concealed. That's what makes 3i Atlas so unnerving. If it's engineered, if it's an emissary from some superior society, its appearance shatters our veil of invisibility. Suddenly, we're exposed, spotted, on their radar, and clueless about the implications. Could 3i Atlas be a vanguard for an invading armada, sizing up our fortifications and assets? Might it represent an outreach from a friendly culture offering a cordial hello? Or perhaps it's a relic automaton running directives from an era whose creators have long vanished, directives that ignore today's circumstances? Abby has laid this out plainly. He's devised something he dubs the Loeb scale, which rates cosmic wanderers from 0, purely organic, to 10, unmistakably engineered, and posing immediate danger. 3i Atlas lands at 4, suggesting about a 40% likelihood it's not a natural body, enough to call for safeguards, but not enough to spark mass hysteria. Still, that score can shift quickly with fresh observations. Should 3.2 Atlas deploy mini-satellites come December, veer off its path, beam out transmissions, or display actions defying natural laws, the score surges. Hitting 8 or 9 signals a verified man-made entity with motives that could turn aggressive. At 10, an assault is in motion, demanding urgent countermeasures. Trouble is, we lack any real armaments. Our top-tier armory, nukes, reaches just thousands of kilometers with velocities in the mere kilometers per second range. Meanwhile, 3i Atlas hurtles along at 58 kilometers per second and will soon depart our star system for good. Interception? Boarding? Sabotage? Forget it. Even chatting with it proves futile without grasping its dialect, routines, or aims. It's like insects eyeing a passing behemoth through their anthill, praying it skips their patch since we can't steer its stride. In asteroid protection talks, NASA has floated nukes to nudge threats off course. The DART project proved impact could work by ramming a probe into a rock to tweak its route. Yet those tactics rely on lifeless bodies obeying basic physics. If 3.2 Atlas boasts smart navigation, shielding, or agility, lobbing a bomb its way could backfire catastrophically. Picture igniting a blast beside an envoy from a star-faring empire. Optimistically, they shrug off our crude swipe. Pessimistically, they see it as a battle cry and retaliate in kind, maybe by eradicating the irritant, that's us, to avert more clashes. The dark forest hypothesis isn't mere fear-mongering, it's sober evaluation. We've been leaking radio and TV waves skyward for more than 80 years now, electromagnetic echoes alerting listeners within an 80-light-year bubble. Countless suns lie inside that zone, several boasting verified worlds. Should any harbor thinking beings, they're aware of us. They've tracked our progress, noted the chemical fingerprints of our factories, the shifts in air chemistry betraying our tech boom. They've had years to gear up, dispatch spies or drones or squadrons that outpace our wildest speeds, timing their drop when we're intriguing yet defenseless, tech-savvy enough to matter, but not fortified against cosmic foes. 3i Atlas showing up right in this slim time frame? Pure chance of the universe, or deliberate ploy? Humanity teeters at a pivot. We can launch into the void but wield nukes clumsily, linked worldwide by gadgets yet split by feuds and factions. We're primed for elevation by kindly guides or exploitation by shrewd hunters. We discover the truth only after the die is cast. The UN lacks any blueprint for this. Back in 2005, the U.S. Congress charged NASA with spotting 90% of voids larger than 140 meters that might smack Earth, big enough for local Armageddon on impact. 3.2 Atlas dwarfs that at least 40-fold, possibly spanning over 5,000 meters across. It's not headed our way, but the monitoring and alert protocols ought to kick in all the same. No UN Security Council huddle, no crisis assembly, no worldwide plan for handling it. Either officials deem the risk trivial or countermeasures simmer in secret silos, shielding the masses from choices cut without our say. Avi has forwarded a policy brief to the UN, pushing for a global panel on interstellar perils. He stresses the urgency of protocols for evaluating and countering such intruders before panic sparks hasty fixes. His blueprint calls for all-sky surveillance networks. Observatories positioned in both the northern and southern hemispheres stand ready to spot and monitor incoming objects, providing the longest possible heads-up. He calls for a massive boost in funding, insisting that once we confirm contact with extraterrestrial tech, expenditures will skyrocket by a factor of 1,000, rivaling worldwide defense budgets, given the profound shocks to global finance and safety. Resistance to Lowe's ideas arises from various fronts. Researchers dismiss him as an alarmist, pointing out that Object 3 Atlas is likely just a comet, and rerouting funds to hypothetical extraterrestrial defenses squanders resources better spent on pressing issues such as global warming and health crisis readiness. Lawmakers view his plans for expansive new global organizations and surveillance networks as impractical, demanding levels of collaboration that are absent and budgets that no one will approve without a clear and immediate danger. Meanwhile, defense agencies and spy outfits favor secrecy for any existing tech of this sort, avoiding tips to rivals about our surveillance strengths or gaps. Yet Lowe's core argument holds firm, no matter if 3 Atlas itself poses a danger. Space is vast and ancient. The odds of other intelligent life out there are strong, and our tools for spotting them are advancing swiftly. The Vera Rubin Observatory, set to launch operations soon, will scan the whole observable universe multiple times, uncovering millions of celestial bodies annually, possibly including scores more wanderers from beyond our solar system. Society is shifting from a time when such interstellar intruders catch us off guard to one where they become routine, each demanding careful evaluation. Is it a mere stone or a vessel, a probe or a missile, organic or engineered? Robust protocols must be in place to resolve these puzzles prior to one turning hostile and catching us unprepared. The insurance sector's quiet stance on threats from the cosmos feels especially alarming when considered under the dark forest paradigm. Coverage is fundamentally about gauging and spreading out dangers to brace for rare but devastating occurrences. Collisions with asteroids, massive volcanic blasts, intense solar storms. These get factored into policies and financial plans. But initial brush with potentially aggressive alien minds marks the pinnacle of unpredictable upheavals, utterly beyond current forecasting. That top insurers aren't openly addressing Object 3-2 Atlas implies they've either pegged the danger at nil or deemed it impossible to cover, signifying fallout so devastating that no safeguards or stockpiles could suffice. Should 3 Atlas signal an assault or its harbinger, our countermeasures boil down to fortifying against predictable strikes. 4 high-speed physical assaults slamming into urban centers or key networks. Protection is limited to early alerts and mass relocations, assuming we even have sufficient notice. If it involves lab-crafted diseases aimed at curbing humanity ahead of takeover, then bolstering containment and accelerating antidote creation takes priority. Still, shielding against alien-engineered germs far superior to our own biology seems hopeless. Should the danger be informational, propaganda campaigns, or mind games preying on our mental blind spots and societal rifts, we're wide open, already undermined by our data-driven tools that profile and sway actions for gain, leaving us prime marks for any entity more adept at those mechanics. The sole viable shield could be rendering ourselves unworthy of assault, cultivating such obscurity and weakness that we slip under the radar, too trivial or non-threatening to warrant the effort of wiping us out. But we've botched that approach by beaming out signals of our existence and amassing atomic arsenals. We're noisy and risky, at minimum to one another, which positions us as the precise sort of budding menace the dark forest logic deems ripe for preemptive neutralization. If 3 Atlas embodies that ruthless assessment, it could be the verdict on our survival. Or perhaps the dark forest idea misses the mark. The galaxy might not be a battlefield. Mature societies could evolve past shortages and conquests. They might thrive on plenty instead of want, viewing nascent minds as prospects rather than perils. Under the zoo hypothesis, our planet serves as a safeguarded sanctuary. Advanced watchers might be holding back intentionally, observing our progress and delaying approach until we're ready. Star Trek's Prime Directive formalizes this restraint as a moral guideline, barring meddling with societies not yet capable of faster-than-light travel. Object 3 Atlas might function within such an oversight framework, inspecting the enclosure to confirm our untainted evolution. Yet the zoo concept falters because it demands agreement across every advanced society capable of contacting us. Reaching that kind of agreement looks unlikely, especially since people can't even settle on fundamental moral standards. A single rebellious group or an empire guided by alien principles could shatter the enclosure, unless the overseeing society is extraordinarily superior, immensely strong, to impose control against any intruders. Yet that brings up fresh issues. A kind-hearted autocracy remains a form of tyranny, and we're powerless to approve or refuse our role as caged specimens. Another angle: interaction might have occurred ages ago, and what unfolds today isn't initial meeting, but renewal of ties after a long separation. The idea of ancient visitors shaping or sparking human society draws backing from oddities in digs and legends. Sites such as the pyramids of Egypt, the temples of the Maya, the Moai statues on Easter Island showcase feats of construction and coordination that appear too sophisticated for their supposed eras. Tales across global traditions speak of heavenly deities, entities from the stars, sky chariots, wisdom bestowed by arrivals from on high. Should these reflect genuine meetings instead of fantasy, then 3-2 Atlas could be those forebears coming back, evaluating the evolution of their project or meddling. This shifts the danger entirely. We're not facing some mysterious extraterrestrial mind, but linking up again with a familiar off-world intellect that shares our past, harbors views about us, and might assert rights over us. The grim wilderness equation alters if we're not wild creatures wandering a dangerous wood, but farmed beasts in a controlled field, pets whose roaming days are wrapping up. Not inherently superior, merely another flavor of peril. Erosion of independence over outright death, although the gap may blur in reality. The deadline weighs heavily. 3-2 Atlas will appear in December skies, swing nearest to our planet in early 2026, head off toward Jupiter, and ultimately leave the solar system by late 2026. From this point, we've got about 14 months to collect evidence, form judgments, enact measures if they're called for. That's scant leeway for sluggish organizations, splintered global partnerships, or inventions that must start from zero. Mounting safeguards, setting up dialogue, or relocating crowds in 14 months allows little beyond emergency sorting and wishful thinking. Lowe contends that erring on the side of caution, treating 3-2 Atlas as artificial and possibly aggressive when it's truly a rock, carries a penalty dwarfed by the fallout from ignoring a genuine menace. Far preferable to over-prepare and squander assets than slack off and invite doom. The safeguard approach tailored to interstellar dangers. Yet authorities and bodies weigh risks differently, where overt steps that end up pointless harm reputations and trust more than quiet neglect sparking disaster outside their grasp. Nobody faces heat for failing to stop the unstoppable, but all catch flack for raising alerts that fizzle out. Here's the shadowy woods conundrum. Treat every rustle as a hunter, and you dwell in endless anxiety, burning supplies on barriers that go unused. Pretend no hunters lurk, and you're caught flat-footed when one strikes. The best path demands precise danger evaluation, but solid judgment needs details we're missing. 3-2 Atlas hasn't struck, hasn't signaled, hasn't shown its aims. It's simply traversing our territory along a path that could be random or deliberate. We sit speculating, mapping our anxieties and dreams onto unclear signals, debating if quiet spells security or if we're exposed in a clearing as sights lock on and fingers hover over firing mechanisms. And once the blast sounds, fleeing comes far too late. Chapter 7. Surfacing and Disclosure. As I pen these words, November draws near, bringing with it the return of 3-2 Atlas from solar seclusion. For more than a month, the entity has stayed out of sight from our planet, lost in the sun's blinding light during its peak energy phase, The perihelion skim on October 29th, when solar heat would trigger fierce vapor release if it were an ordinary comet. We lack first-hand views from that vital interval, just the limited info from the Mars Close Pass in early October and any secret scans from sun-watching probes not releasing their secrets openly. What stands clear is that 3-2 Atlas endured the perihelion. Bodies nearing the sun can shatter under heat strain, splintering dramatically as frozen materials vaporize quicker than their frames endure. Like Comet Ison in 2013, which crumbled at its solar closest approach, shifting from vivid visible sight to scattered rubble haze. By every sign, 3-2 Atlas holds together solidly following its predicted path away from the inner solar system. The object continues its voyage toward the distant reaches beyond. While this offers some clues, making sense of them demands far more information than what's available now. The European Space Agency's JUICE mission, formerly known as the Jupiter Icy Moons Explorer, is set to scrutinize the entity dubbed 3I Atlas this November en route to its ultimate target in the Jupiter realm. Equipped with advanced tools like imaging systems, spectral analyzers, and particle sensors, JUICE stands ready to deliver remarkable insights into the object's makeup, form, and any outflows it might produce. Officials at the ESA have verified that the probe will conduct these scans in November, possibly syncing efforts with NASA's Europa Clipper, which is likewise heading Jupiterward. The paired UV spectrographs aboard the two craft could capture 3I Atlas from varied perspectives at the same time, yielding 3D imagery that uncovers its shape and spin properties. Yet, a significant hurdle remains. At present, JUICE lingers near the sun along its path, relying on its primary high-gain dish as a thermal barrier to safeguard delicate gear. Contact with Earth happens via a secondary medium-gain antenna, slashing the bandwidth dramatically. Moreover, with JUICE positioned on the sun's far side relative to our planet, signal paths stretch to their longest, and relay windows are scarce. The ESA has made it plain. They anticipate no results from JUICE's 3I Atlas flyby until February 2026, 3 months post-event. At that point, 3I Atlas will have pressed onward beyond Earth's path, nearing Jupiter, and any antics from December will long be in the past. Such postponement is exasperating yet inevitable, bound by the dictates of orbits and comms constraints. It also implies that should a major event unfold in December, say, if 3I Atlas ejects fragments as some remote observers foresaw, beams out transmissions, shifts direction, or displays urgent traits, we'd respond minus the sharpest observational intel. Ground telescopes will contribute useful views, though hampered by air turbulence and the target's dim glow. Orbital scopes like Hubble or the James Webb Space Telescope might chip in if tasked accordingly. However, lining up those sessions calls for forethought amid rival claims from broader sky surveys. Hobbyists are bridging the voids left by experts, proving vital come December. A worldwide array of backyard scopes, linked via digital hubs, and fueled by pure interest free from red tape, enables round-the-clock vigilance. As 3I Atlas reemerges into view, enthusiasts have already snapped shots during its inbound phase that spotlighted nuances overlooked by the pros, and their role will grow as official instruments stay locked on alternatives or snared in admin holdups. Notably, one enthusiast, a YouTuber called Dobsonian Power, nabbed a photo amid the Mars Close approach that ignited fierce web discussions. Processed by layering shots to boost clarity over noise, the picture seemed to reveal sharp-edged forms inside 3I Atlas's hazy envelope. Shadowy patches that clashed with the even spread typical of mere debris and vapor. These forms had a precise, nearly engineered vibe, fueling outlandish theories on hidden mechanisms or exposed fixtures piercing the veil. Skeptics dismissed them as glitches from the editing, mere pareidolia where our brains conjure shapes from chaos. Still, the uproar underscores our desperate need for solid facts and how much guesswork fills the void with visuals from an entity countless miles distant. The rhythmic shifts spotted in 3I Atlas's luminosity and location from August-September watches introduce further intrigue. Early reports in the astronomer's telegram hinted at a roughly 4-hour cycle in drift patterns, paired with a 2-hour rhythm in light output. Such patterns might stem from a lopsided body spinning, its uneven surfaces bouncing back varying sunlight levels as it flips along. Alternatively, they could signal lively operations, targeted releases of material, rhythmic thruster bursts, or inner motions spilling out as surface quirks. Footage from the ExoMars Trace Gas Orbiter during the Mars Pass depicted 3I Atlas fluctuating more than fixed stars, pointing to genuine shifts over mere glitches. Those fluctuations might arise from vapor jets flickering on and off as sun-warmed frosts in key spots slip into darkness. Or perhaps they're indications of other phenomena, launched sensors drifting in and out of sight, components shifting position. This kind of behavior bears no relation to sublimating IS/ISIS threats and everything to do with intelligence guiding missions. We must proceed cautiously to avoid forcing unclear evidence into favored interpretations. Our minds are predisposed to detect patterns and attribute purpose to occurrences that could simply stem from mechanical forces or chance. That's the origin of religions, the spread of conspiracy theories, and the way we impose narratives on a chaotic universe to imbue events with deeper significance than their raw happening. Oumuamua might just be persisting in space, following physical laws, shedding material via ordinary mechanisms, spinning due to long-ago impacts or tidal forces, and the oddities we've examined may all boil down to everyday reasons we haven't pinpointed. Yet recognizing such options doesn't justify ignoring the irregularities. Progress in science comes from honoring observations, rejecting vague brush-offs that fail to address the evidence. Oumuamua shows no coma despite expectations for a comet. Its composition defies what we've seen in known ones. Its path seems oddly synced with solar system paths. Its estimated mass surpasses what its dimensions and luminosity suggest. These details demand answers. And should mundane causes apply, we ought to uncover them via thorough scrutiny, not presume they're there, and proceed. Avi Loeb has relentlessly pushed for precisely this method. View Oumuamua as potentially irregular until evidence says otherwise. Allocate efforts to monitoring and study. Collect as much info as possible during the available time. Detractors claim he's chasing spotlight or pushing ET ideas to stay in the news. There could be some validity there. Motivations influence everyone, scientists included. Still, Loeb has staked his credibility and effort on his stance, spearheading the Galileo project to build detection networks that scan millions of celestial bodies annually, probing for tech indicators, embracing the chance that we're not solitary and that signs of others could already lurk in our records, if we use proper instruments and unbiased perspectives. The Galileo project embodies astroarchaeology in action, hunting for relics instead of radio waves and SETI. For generations, the quest for alien minds has zeroed in on radio or other EM broadcasts, presuming that sophisticated societies either signal deliberately or let everyday signals escape as traceable tech marks. But Loeb contends that physical remnants in the void could outnumber and outlast fleeting transmissions. A spacecraft dispatched eons back might still function, or at least endure, long after its creators have vanished or evolved beyond. Spotting even one validates extraterrestrial smarts, regardless of whether those minds persist or remain contactable. The 1I class might mark that initial relic, the pioneer verified instance of non-earthly tech, or perhaps the follow-up, second or third or 10th, hinging on if Oumuamua and similar prospects get validated as manufactured. Opposition to deeming any extrasolar visitor as engineered arises from sound scholarly caution. Bold assertions need robust proof, but also from unease over the consequences. If Oumuamua is a scout, then a sender dispatched it. A sender is aware of our existence. A society with star-spanning capabilities has noted us. That reshapes our cosmic self-view, our solitude, our distinctiveness, our potential paths and perils ahead. The viewing period in December holds key value not only for data acquisition, but for verifying forecasts. Distant seers predicted December as the turning point for actions, scout activations, energy bursts, decision points. Visionary accounts described it as a timeline split, where humankind's trajectory branches according to reactions to disclosures. Should December pass uneventfully with Oumuamua merely drifting outward like a standard comet, then the forecasts falter, the visions prove unfounded, and we can categorize the saga as a curious outlier, natural in the end. Yet if December yields surprises, deployments, emissions, shifts, interferences, then all the foresight strengthens and all the rejections appear hasty. I occupy an odd mental space, torn between clashing drives. My rational side leans toward mundane accounts first, avoiding leaps to extraterrestrials or forgotten initiatives or mind-altering tech without probing every standard avenue. My doubtful nature recognizes our knack for weaving grand legends from scant inputs, our deep yearning to feel exceptional, selected, on the cusp of a shift that renders making the current difficulties feel justified in the end. Yet the straightforward analyst within me refuses to overlook the recurring trends, the clustering of oddities that may not confirm suspicions on their own, but together imply that something truly extraordinary is happening. What could serve as evidence? What sighting would elevate 3 Atlas from potentially engineered to likely engineered to unquestionably engineered? Consider Lowe's outlined benchmarks. Signals emanating from the entity in wavebands and sequences unexplained by cosmic phenomena. Trajectory adjustments impossible to blame on gas expulsion propulsion. Intentional steering to sustain its path. Launching of subordinate probes displaying acceleration beyond gravity's pull. Configurations observable at high enough detail where shapes unmistakably signal intentional construction over random geology. Each of these alone would tilt the odds sharply. We lack them so far, though December could deliver if we scrutinize closely. Pulling together all we've scrutinized in this probe leads to key takeaways, a few reassuring and others profoundly disturbing. Firstly, 3 Atlas stands out as truly irregular, showing traits that clash with our grasp of rogue interstellar wanderers. It doesn't confirm artificial origins, yet it insists we weigh that option seriously against mundane theories. Secondly, diverse, unrelated inputs, from empirical data collection to clairvoyant insights to foretold alerts, are aligning on comparable schedules and developments. This alignment might stem from common societal biases and cross-pollution among reports, or it might mean varied individuals detecting the identical core motif via distinct approaches. Thirdly, official reactions to 3 Atlas have fallen short, featuring sluggish information sharing, weak interorganizational teamwork, and neglect to address the entity with due gravity considering its irregularities and the risks if it's engineered. This might just be typical administrative inertia, or it could hint at hidden orchestration, readiness for situations concealed from the public eye. Fourthly, as a society, we're woefully unequipped for an initial encounter, be it aggressive, benign, or benevolent. We have no established procedures, no cohesive action systems, no conceptual tools to even grasp contact when the visitors could be organic life, mechanical constructs, interdimensional entities, or existences beyond our classifications. And fifthly, the dialogue surrounding accounts. That vast numbers are monitoring 3 Atlas, debating its ramifications, challenging state accounts, insisting on openness. This signals a shift in our cosmic interaction. We're no longer mere recipients of elite declarations on the heavens. We're hands-on contributors to unveiling, harnessing collective smarts and collaborative probes to bridge voids that establishments ignore. This is fresh. This packs a punch. And this momentum persists no matter 3 Atlas's ultimate nature. December will illuminate plenty, though not the full picture. Should 3 Atlas execute an undeniable maneuver, expose itself as overtly advanced machinery, the inquiries would proliferate instead of simplify. Who dispatched it? For what purpose? What's their agenda? How should we react? Do we influence the unfolding events? Or are we mere bystanders in an unfolding saga we neither selected nor can steer? Its reappearance from solar seclusion is a physical event, 3 Atlas emerging into view once more. Yet it symbolizes deeper unveiling from shadows. Existence laying bare its layers, prepared or not. What I yearn for, what countless others yearn for, is disclosure sans disaster, engagement without domination, evolution without anguish. The hopeful visions where 3 Atlas acts as envoy from a benevolent society, where innovations are exchanged to tackle our power shortages and ecological woes, where we're inducted into a stellar network and offered wisdom for the hurdles ahead. Such outcomes remain viable. The evidence doesn't rule them out, but the dire outcomes hold equal weight. And the real sorrow would come if we realized far too late that preparation was feasible, unity achievable, a case for safeguarding or alliance buildable, yet squandered due to our fractures, diversions, and stubborn rejection of unsettling prospects. 3 Atlas functions as both enigma and reflector. Our reflections in it echo our own projections. Anticipators of danger spot a hunter. Hopefuls of rescue behold a redeemer. Skeptics of spectacle view a mere icy drifter. We're all examining identical records, identical entity, identical arc across our system. The diverging views illuminate our inner worlds more than the objects. We stand as a race poised to grasp celestial realms, yet instinctively grasping arms when facing the unfamiliar. We possess vast potential for alliance, but persist in splintering into human societies have long grappled with tension, much like ancient groups facing unknown dangers. We're a species standing at the edge of either evolving into a vast interstellar society or wiping ourselves out by clinging too tightly to our primitive roots. The 3 Atlas won't dictate our direction. That's up to us. This thing acts as a trigger, a happening, a key piece of info. Yet the decisions rest with humanity. It's about our reactions to the unknown, our handling of proof that upends our beliefs, our way of weighing caution against fear, curiosity against doubt, optimism against pragmatism. These moments gauge our preparedness, not just for 3 Atlas in particular, but for a tomorrow that spans the stars instead of being confined to a single planet. We'll encounter challenges like this sooner or later. If not today, then down the road. If not from this visitor, then from the next one. The cosmos is far too expansive, ancient, and brimming with potential for our world to stay cut off indefinitely. 3 Atlas serves as the prelude, the initial distinct sound in an orchestra that's echoed around us, though we're just starting to tune in. With December drawing near and observatories pointing at the patch of sky where 3 Atlas will return, it strikes me that revelation derives from the Latin word revelar, meaning to uncover, to pull aside the drape, revealing what's been concealed. It's not inventing fresh realities, but exposing those that have lingered in the shadows all along. Regardless of whether 3 Atlas is a mere asteroid or a vessel, organic or engineered, probe or relic, it's stripping away the layers, compelling us to tackle inquiries we'd previously kept abstract. Are we solitary in the void? Are we secure? Are we prepared? The response is, no matter what they reveal, won't hinge on the intruder itself, but on our transformation as we absorb them. Perhaps that's the essence. Perhaps the stars aren't concerned if we label 3 Atlas a meteor or a machine, provided we're posing the queries and allowing those inquiries to reshape us into beings equipped to manage the forthcoming truths. Chapter 8, The Wow Link Up. If you've just joined us, go ahead and smash that like button, then subscribe. Leave a comment below about your location, the current time there, and your take on whether we're the only ones out here or if extraterrestrials have been keeping tabs on us forever. To boost this group, spread the word on X, Facebook, Reddit, or whatever chat app you use. We appreciate your support. August 15th, 1977, a day that lingered in astronomers' minds for almost 50 years. The Big Ear Radio Observatory at Ohio State University picked up an anomaly that defied logic. A focused radio emission at 1420, 456 MHz, smack on the hydrogen line, the wavelength experts view as the go-to frequency for cosmic outreach. Days afterward, Jerry Emmon examined the printout and spotted the intensity surge, jotting "wow" in red ink. That single term branded the detection and sparked generations of conjecture, arguments, and eventual letdowns. The burst endured precisely 72 seconds, the complete span Big Ear had for monitoring, before fading into oblivion, never resurfacing despite exhaustive searches. Its source pointed toward the Sagittarius constellation, a star-packed zone close to the Milky Way's core. For decades, it stood as SETI's most intriguing puzzle, a stellar enigma shrouded in electromagnetic pulses and unlikely odds. Skeptics wrote it off as background cosmic static or even hydrogen from comets, but that idea got solidly refuted. The emission carried signs of deliberate design, tight bandwidth, robust strength, ideal tuning. Yet lacking any recurrence or verification, it stayed trapped in the land of possibilities. Jump to July 1st, 2025. The Atlas Survey Telescope in Chile detects an intruder slicing through our solar system at unreal velocities. An arrival from the outer reaches, from beyond our stars. The third verified interstellar guest we've documented. They dubbed it 3 Atlas. As experts map its route, a stunning pattern appears. This entity, be it comet, vehicle, or enigma, charts its course backward across the galaxy to the identical stellar district, Sagittarius. The very same star cluster, the same broad bearing. Avi Loeb, the Harvard astrophysicist who stirred controversy in academia by embracing tech-based theories for odd phenomena, crunched the numbers. On August 12, 1977, just 3 days prior to the WOW signal's capture, 3E Atlas sat roughly $600 away, equivalent to 600 times the Earth-Sun gap. That equates to about 3 days of light travel delay. The object's position then, right ascension 19 hours 40 minutes, declination 19 degrees. Stack that against the WOW emissions source. The gap measures around 4 degrees in right ascension and 8 degrees in declination. Pause and consider a 4 to 8 degree offset across the vast dome of the sky. Loeb figured the odds of 2 arbitrary sky positions matching that closely. Roughly 0.6%. The probability sits below 1 in 150, improbable, yet not out of the question. It's compelling enough statistically to warrant thorough examination instead of offhand rejection. Now, the fascinating part emerges. Supposing the WOW signal came from 3I Atlas, what sort of transmitter strength would it require? The observed strength varied between 54 and 212 Jansky across a roughly 10 kHz bandwidth, at a distance of 600 astronomical units. Applying the inverse square law in reverse yields an originating power of 0.5 to 2 gigawatts. For context, that's comparable to a standard nuclear power plant's generation here on our planet. Feasible for a sophisticated society, though it points to intentional, high-powered broadcasting. The Big Ear radio telescope that picked up the WOW signal was tuned precisely to the hydrogen line at 1,420 MHz, given hydrogen's dominance as the universe's most common element. Any society versed in radio astronomy would recognize this frequency. It's the universal greeting channel, ideal for signals meant to be discovered. And remarkably, an interstellar visitor hurtling at 58 kilometers per second emerges from exactly that sky region, where the signal arose 48 years prior. Critics rightly note, and they're correct, that Sagittarius spans a vast swath of the cosmos, home to the Milky Way's core, billions of stars, and innumerable possible origins. The overlap might simply be coincidence. Yet those same doubters struggle to account for 3I Atlas's array of peculiarities, which this inquiry will delve into further. The absent comet tail, the baffling mass-to-path mismatch, the sync with our solar system's plane, the pure nickel signatures devoid of iron. These quirks might each be brushed off individually. Combined, however, they weave a tapestry that's tough to overlook. Factor in the timing alignment too. Just 5 days post-WOW detection, NASA sent Voyager 2 skyward on August 20, 1977, our boldest venture toward distant worlds and the void beyond. Today, Voyager 2 ventures onward into the interstellar realm, bearing the golden record as our outreach to potential extraterrestrial minds. Could the WOW signal have replied to Earth's prior radio emissions? TV transmissions, radar pulses, defense chatter, all beaming outward since the 1940s. The chronology fits. Light-speed signals from Earth in the late 1930s or early 1940s could arrive at 3I Atlas's then position by 1977, if it's been cruising steadily for eons. This prompts yet another puzzle. If 3I Atlas emitted the WOW signal, why a single burst? Why just 72 seconds followed by quiet? Perhaps it wasn't a steady stream but a targeted beacon, a quick tap, a probe, a salutation synced for Earth's spin into its path. The Big Ear's dual-feed horns scanned the heavens 3 minutes apart. A persistent signal would have hit both, yet only one registered it. That implies the emitter shifted position, unlikely for celestial bodies over mere minutes, or the broadcast was fleeting and aimed. Avi Loeb urges observatories to scan 3I Atlas with radio dishes as it traverses our system. To date, no such facility has shared findings on the intruder. We're navigating sightlessly across the EM spectrum, fixating on optical, IR, and UV wavelengths while sidelining the exact range of the initial anomaly. It's akin to unraveling a crime without examining the tool used. This matter transcends mere scholarly interest. Should 3i Atlas be emitting? If it dispatched the WOW, if it wields gigawatt-scale tech, then we're confronting engineered artifacts, not mere rock. Artifacts suggest minds at work. Minds suggest purpose. Purpose demands evaluation. Loeb introduces his Loeb scale to gauge such visitors. 0 for purely natural, 10 for unmistakably artificial and dangerously close. He places 3i Atlas at 4, signaling a 40% likelihood of non-natural makeup. Far from wild conjecture, this stems from rigorous analysis of the oddities observed. A 40% shot that this isn't a rogue comet, but a vessel. A 40% shot that the WOW wasn't cosmic static, but a purposeful ping from the very thing now slicing through our stellar neighborhood. What truly captivates is the overlap of clues, a legendary unsolved burst of radio waves, a bizarre wanderer from afar, both linked to one galactic bearing, both tied to hydrogen's wavelength or its chemical echoes, both surfacing amid humanity's surges in cosmic exploration. The WOW arrived in the Voyager age, our inaugural push toward the stars. 3i Atlas shows up now, amid escalating attention to the heavens. Regarding private space ventures, interstellar journeys, and efforts to detect alien life, the mainstream scientific community's reaction remains subdued thus far. NASA has labeled the 3i Atlas as a comet. Tom Statler, the agency's chief expert on small solar system bodies, remarked, "It appears comet-like, acts like one, and closely mirrors familiar comets." Yet that initial judgment relied on sparse information. As more data poured in, revealing no classic tail, mass shedding without altering its path, and chemical makeup distinct from typical comets, doubts have crept in, though not voiced openly. Official bodies rarely backtrack swiftly, yet the inquiries raised, the observation slots granted, and the subdued admissions that this anomaly stands out all hint at shifting views. Amateur stargazers, by contrast, have tackled it head-on. Scopes globally are following 3i Atlas, snapping photos, conducting spectral analyses, and examining brightness patterns. Certain shots, especially from the Mars close approach in October's opening weeks, displayed formations that defy standard comet theories. Sharp edges, shiny facets, and rhythmic luminosity shifts implying a tumbling, uneven body. The U.S. government's funding freeze, which we'll delve into shortly, delayed key insights from Mars satellites. Once available, those findings depicted something far from a gritty ice ball, more akin to an entity with precise contours. Remarkably, no one's tuning into radio bands either. The Very Large Array is equipped for it. The Arecibo facility might have managed before its downfall. Plenty of global radio dishes possess the tech. However, observation slots are scarce, booked far ahead, and shifting priorities to surveil what experts deem merely a comet demands backing few scientists dare stake their reputations on. This mirrors the bureaucratic drag that postponed accepting the inaugural interstellar visitor, Oumuamua, as truly odd. When agreement finally emerged that it merited intense scrutiny, the thing had dimmed and drifted too distant for thorough pursuit. What sets 3i Atlas apart is our lingering window. Currently, it's vanished behind the sun's glare from Earth's vantage. Yet it emerges again come early December 2025. Late November through December offers prime viewing angles, amplified by the fresh solar skim that ought to boost its glow. Should it prove a comet, that's prime time to observe if it follows norms or unveils traits demanding a rethink. That's when radio arrays ought to zero in, scanning near the hydrogen wavelength for signals. After all, if the famed WOW signal marked 3i Atlas's 1977 greeting, and if this entity now prowls our system, our reply lag stretches 48 years across vast light-year spans at slower-than-light paces. A craft dispatched from the WOW's origin star might need eons to arrive, based on range and speed. But suppose 3i Atlas was en route, nearing us, and broadcast a beacon upon hitting $600. Then the alignment fits, the schedule aligns, the link shifts from chance to proof. Naturally, such notions stir chilling prospects. If it served as an alert or scout ping, showcasing their prowess. What's the follow-up? If meant as outreach, our mute inaction, overlooking even basic frequency sweeps, conveys disregard or apathy, hardly bolstering faith in a civilization teetering toward interstellar dialogue. And if merely a beacon for navigation, gauging voids, or dodging obstacles, then humanity's irrelevant. Mere bystanders in the path. The Sagittarius tie-in holds extra weight. That galactic coreward patch boasts the densest star clusters. Greater stellar counts mean more worlds, and thus higher odds for evolving life and minds. SETI hunts have prioritized it, betting that denizens there likely boast allies, advanced comms, and motives to transmit. It's the universe's bustling hub, and from there 3i Atlas appeared. This could be reality probing our vigilance. Do we notice? Probe deeply? Embrace unease over tidy answers? The WoW event tested us, and we flopped, neglecting robust trails, ongoing watches, the prompt action it cried for. 48 ye decades on, we're granted yet another shot, yet another irregularity originating from the identical path, presenting us with a fresh chance to either comprehend or overlook it. The renowned science fiction author Arthur C. Clarke famously noted that technology advanced enough appears no different from sorcery. Yet he further emphasized that the sole method to uncover the boundaries of possibility lies in stepping past them into the realm of impossibility. Positioned right on that divide between the organic and the constructed, between stone and vessel, between icy wanderer and signaling apparatus, 3 Atlas compels us to make that leap. And the WoW signal, that intense 72-second surge of radio waves that enthrall the cohort of SETI scientists, could ultimately prove to be the transmission from the very entity now traversing our heavens. Not a puzzle from bygone eras, but a dispatch concerning the here and now. Not an unresolved riddle, but the opening line in a dialogue we hadn't noticed was already underway. Across the eons while Earth has orbited the sun, the nocturnal expanse has observed innumerable visitors slicing through our solar domain. The vast majority went unnoticed, undetected, unseen by gazes not yet developed to gaze skyward and ponder the nature of those twinkling specks. 3 Atlas stands apart solely because we exist to observe it, to quantify it, to probe its significance. In a century or a millennium, as humankind extends past our planet, provided we endure that span, we'll reflect on this juncture as either the dawn of interstellar insight or a squandered prospect. A cautionary indicator we disregarded, favoring ease over inquiry, rejection safer than scrutiny. I often reflect on the myriad individuals across time who stared at the heavens and speculated if those gleams were mere illuminations or if something reciprocal had gazed in return. The early stargazers charting planetary paths, dubbing them rovers for their defiance of the steadfast constellations, crafting legends to account for phenomena beyond their ability to quantify. The scholars of the Middle Ages safeguarding wisdom amid turbulent times, transcribing volumes on the heavens even as doctrinal overseers insisted our world was the focal point of creation and challenging that view constituted blasphemy. The trailblazers of the Renaissance who directed scopes toward the firmament and discerned that orbits were realms unto themselves, that celestial bodies were stellar furnaces, that reality spanned far wider and more peculiar than fables permitted. Every era stretched the frontiers of understanding, ventured into domains unimaginable to their forebears, confronted opposition from those wedded to outdated truths. We find ourselves in precisely that spot today, on the brink of a breakthrough that renders prior transformations seem mere adjustments. Shifting from Earth-centered to sun-centered views altered our cosmic postcode. Our globe ceased being the hub, yet remained our abode. Expanding to the Milky Way redefined our locale scope, acknowledging our star as one amid trillions. Progressing to a cosmos teeming with galaxies reshaped our grasp of magnitude, trillions of galaxies, each harboring trillions of luminous giants. The impending evolution, should it arrive, redefines our solitude. Isolation ends. We've never been solitary. The cosmos brims with intellects and configurations we're just starting to fathom. 3 Atlas could mark our inaugural verified brush with this reality. Or it might serve as a rehearsal for the moment such contact grows irrefutable. The information we've scrutinized, the accounts we've gathered, the oddities we've attempted to rationalize. They sketch an unfinished portrait. Such ambiguity unsettles intellects craving assurance, clear resolutions, a realm that's graspable and controllable. Yet this partial view rings true. We lack full insight into three Atlas's essence. Not entirely, not at present. Our theories span from an ordinary celestial body with peculiar, yet accountable traits to an engineered scout from a society eons ahead in evolution. Each pole holds viability, as does the spectrum in between. Our handling of this ambiguity reveals our character as profoundly as three Atlas's revelation discloses its identity. I wish for us to embrace inquisitiveness rather than dread, exploration over denial, openness over concealment. I anticipate December delivering illumination, be it validation of mundane origins, allowing us to catalog this as a captivating stellar occurrence, or affirmation of engineered intent, compelling us to confront the ramifications we've sidestepped. Regardless, the pursuit of answers counts. The collective rallied around three Atlas, folks from nations worldwide pooling sightings, contesting analyses, insisting on superior evidence, exemplifies humanity's potential when we prioritize the stars over strife, directing our focus externally instead of arming against one another. My gratitude for accompanying me on this probe, for lending your focus and acumen to inquiries lacking simple solutions. Should this journey strike a chord, kindly like and subscribe to fuel further in-depth probes into realms where science meets enigma. Such realms abound in the cosmos, awaiting unbiased explorers ready to delve without favoring set conclusions. And as ever, this material serves educational purposes. For informational and entertainment value, this explores various angles on unclear evidence. Form your own opinions, fact-check everything on your own, and stay wary of folks who act like they've got it all figured out when doubts linger. The room's dimming as I wrap this up, a fitting symbol for wrapping up talk of shadowy celestial bodies. Yet night isn't emptiness. It's packed with stuff we're not yet equipped to spot. Each glimmer urges us to peer deeper, pose sharper inquiries, and realize the cosmos isn't obligated to spell things out, though it dangles infinite chances to uncover secrets if we dare to pursue them. Whatever three Atlas turns out to be, it handed us that chance. If we grabbed it or watched it slip by, time will tell before long. Sleep well, no matter your spot on the globe. And here's hoping your heavens stay unclouded come December, when three-eyed Atlas swings back into sight, hauling along its load of revelations or enigmas, unmoved by how we spin the tale, but open to what we observe. A cosmic traveler that turned into a reflection of our dreams and dreads, our wonder and wariness, our preparedness or absence of it, for a universe that's always been around, just biding time until we're mature enough to notice. Right this instant, while these words reach you, something zipping at 210,000 kilometers per hour lurks on the far side of our sun. Come 24 hours from now, on October 29th, 2025, 3I Atlas hits perihelion, its nearest brush with our star. And the aftermath might flip our understanding upside down. Harvard's Avi Loeb has bumped his odds to 40% that this thing isn't from nature's playbook. Those Mars snapshots NASA held back amid the shutdown. The sync up with the 1977 WOW signal, which carries just a 6% shot at pure chance. The 33 billion ton bulk that defies logic. Pay close attention, since in the blink of an eye, this star-hopping intruder will either crumble into bits like typical comets or pull off a move that backs up the hush theories some experts have floated but hesitated to voice. It might deploy scouts, self-copying drones, even. And the path projections indicate that from November 21st through December 5th, one could drop toward Earth. Drop a note below, where you're tuned in from, the local time, and do you reckon three-eyed Atlas will disintegrate come morning or unveil bigger secrets? If cosmic enigmas hook you, hit that like button, subscribe, and spread this across X, Facebook, Reddit, or your chats. Appreciate you sticking with us. Chapter 1. The Quiet Leading to Chaos. An unbelievable event is unfolding with 3I Atlas at this very moment, and the hush from space organizations rings loud. As we hang on for clarity, this 7-meter-wide anomaly keeps slicing through the solar system's heart at velocities that dwarf our quickest spacecraft. But what sets this day apart from all those since its spot on July 1st? The dawn brings the big reveal, the perihelion flyby that settles the riddle tormenting stargazers. Comet? Or a whole different beast? The European Space Agency dropped their Mars probe shots from October 3rd, sparking online frenzy. Officials call it a blurry speck. Yet tweaks by outside analysts uncover a stretched, near-tube-like form unlike any comet on record. Unprocessed feeds from NASA's Perseverance rover paint an odder picture. Hobbyists have layered 20 shots each, spotting what astrophotographer Simeon Schmaus labels a subtle blur right where three-eyed Atlas ought to loom in Mars view. But that blur hints at form, details implying this isn't mere frozen rubble. Onto the schedule here. The U.S. government closure kicked off right as 3 Atlas neared Mars closest. NASA's outreach lines fell silent. Crisp pics from the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter's high-rise lens, capable of 30 centimeters per pixel detail on this visitor, sit sealed in red tape. Coincidence, say some. Cover up murmurs from others. Still, backyard stargazers aren't pausing for approval. A creator called Dobsonian Power snagged an eye-opener via sun-watching scope, following three-eyed Atlas sunward. His footage highlights odd builds, traits alien to ordinary comets. In no time, the clip racked up hundreds of thousands of watches, with debates exploding in replies. Established skywatchers stay mum, tied to agency rules and slow-grind reviews as this thing blasts at 61 kilometers per second. The Swift telescope picked up hydroxyl gas traces, the telltale sign of water that discovery ought to have brought some comfort. Evidence showed that 3 Atlas was venting water just like a typical comet. Only it was anything but ordinary. The thing was shedding 40 kilograms of water every second, even though it sat almost 3 times farther from the sun than our planet in a cosmic zone where water ice ought to stay locked in place. Dennis Boditz of Oren University described it as deciphering a message from a distant planetary realm. Yet he, too, had no clue why such water emission was happening at an utterly implausible range. Allow me to sketch the scenario we're facing. Picture something possibly 7 billion years old, ancient beyond our sun, predating our entire solar system, and harboring chemical traces from an entirely alien star-forming region. Simulations by Matthew Hopkins and colleagues indicate that 3I/Atlas originated in the Milky Way's thick disk phase, a frenzy of starbirth that wrapped up eons before Earth came into being. This goes beyond a mere traveler from another star system. It's a herald from a bygone chapter in the galaxy's past. The figures alone reveal a puzzle that refuses to balance. Richard Clue, collaborating with Avi Lowe and Peter V. crunched the numbers revealing 3I/Atlas's mass at a minimum of 33 billion tons. For context, that's 3 to 5 magnitudes heftier than the prior 2 interstellar intruders, Oumuamua and Boris. Odds-wise, we'd expect to spot 100,000 items Oumuamua-sized long before encountering a behemoth like 3I/Atlas. Still, it's the third confirmed interstellar body we've identified, towering over other space drifters. Its path layers on more enigma. 3I/Atlas enters our solar system via a retrograde path, counter to the flow of our planets. With an orbital tilt of 175 degrees, it's basically looping inverted and reversed across our stellar turf. Yet the oddity deepens. Despite that bizarre entry vector, its route hugs our ecliptic to within 5 degrees. Random chance for such precision? Just 0.2%. Factor in the timing of its near misses with Mars, Venus, and Jupiter, and the odds plunge to 0.00005%. Come tomorrow, as 3I/Atlas arcs nearest the sun at 203 million kilometers. It'll face heat strain it hasn't known in maybe millions of years. Sunlight will dump gigawatts of energy onto its exterior. Assuming it's a genuine comet, we'd anticipate dazzling vapor jets, perhaps outright shattering as icy volatiles flash to gas. The JUICE probe will monitor it, joined by Earth telescopes once it clears the solar glare in November. Chapter 2. The Wow Link. Suppose 3I/Atlas holds together? What if, per Avi's 30 to 40% chance estimate, it endures thanks to deliberate engineering? The fallout echoes across history in ways that unsettle even veteran stargazers. For 48 years back, an event unfolded that could tie into today's spectacle. August 15th, 1977. Jerry Emmon, stationed at Ohio State University, sifted big ear radio telescope readings when a blip prompted him to scrawl one word in red ink, a term that's haunted science ever since. Wow. The pulse endured 72 seconds, originating from Sagittarius, and eluded all later hunts. It stood as the prime tease for alien tech on record. Until recently, its source remained elusive. Step in 3I/Atlas, backed by math that sends shivers racing. Low backtracked its course, factoring gravity pulls and the absence of extra propulsion that renders this body so oddly bulky. On August 12, 1977, just 3 days prior to the WOW detection, 3I/Atlas hovered roughly $600 from us. Light from there takes 3 days to reach Earth. The angle between 3I/Atlas's spot then and the WOW source varies by a mere 4 degrees in right ascension and 8 degrees in declination. Coincidental odds? A slim 0.66%. Now weigh the energy demands for 3I/Atlas to beam the WOW pulse from $600 with the strength Big Ear captured. It'd require a broadcaster pumping 0.5 to 2 gigawatts, power akin to a nuclear plant, the sort fitting an interstellar craft built to thrive for millions or billions of years amid the voids between suns. Low points out that nuclear propulsion for 3I/Atlas would account for quirks like its dust ejections, which defy standard comet vaporization. The WOW emission bears traits that age for almost half a century. The mysterious WOW signal has left astronomers scratching their heads. It popped up at 1,420 megahertz, strikingly near the hydrogen line wavelength that experts have theorized extraterrestrial societies could tap for messaging, given hydrogen's dominance across the cosmos. This emission was tightly focused, confined to a single frequency instead of the broad scatter seen in cosmic events. Its intensity waxed and waned in a way that matched the Big Ear telescopes scanned over a far-off emitter. All signs pointed to something engineered, yet its origin stayed elusive. That eerie green hue spotted in boosted views of 3I throws fresh intrigue into the interstellar riddle. Close examination of its light spectrum shows it's not the usual green from carbon molecules that colors most comets. Rather, it's driven by nickel lines, lacking the iron traces common in ordinary space debris. A few scientists point out this profile echoes man-made nickel compounds far more than ancient leftovers from our star system. Does this hint at crafted origins, or just an odd makeup from some distant star's realm? Consider the bigger picture we're grappling with, something predating our solar system's birth by ages, drifting through the void for countless eras, perhaps broadcasting pulses on a precise schedule. The WOW signal's 72-second span wasn't likely chance. It might encode a message chunk, a signal flare, or a deliberate marker meant to draw eyes. Failing to pick it up since doesn't prove it's gone silent. Maybe 3I spins, its broadcaster sweeping the stars like a beacon's light that briefly aligned with our spot during that scan. The engineering feats this implies boggle the mind. Should 3I have been pulsing on and off for eons, it'd demand not only energy reserves but clever setups for stability, heat control, and shielding gear from stellar rays. Its seeming solidity after billions of years adrift screams either incredible natural toughness or design surpassing our tech. Fresh digs into the Oreso Observatory's old records have flagged more oddities potentially linked to 3I. The Arecibo WOW initiative, sifting through years of baffling blips, spotted faint echoes near the classic WOW band, if weaker overall. These pings lack a clear rhythm in time or direction. Yet if 3I has been navigating via stellar gravity boosts across millennia, its broadcast would look erratic from our vantage. Its recent actions bolster the idea of purposeful emissions. While standard comets start venting near the Sun, 3I displayed strange outbursts still outside Jupiter's path. The Swift telescope's water vapor find came at ranges too far for normal ice melt, implying internal warmth. A nuclear reactor could account for that, as could onboard gear prepping for inter-system dive. Hubble's noted anti-tail, that forward-spewing stream, might signal thruster output over mere solar wind nudge. Radio experts globally are racing to aim antennas at 3I nearing its sun grace. Solar static complicates things, though. The prime viewing slot hits in November, post-solar eclipse. Should 3 Atlas broadcast once more, firing off another wow-like burst during its solar flyby, will be set. The Allen Telescope Array, Very Large Array, and scores of other radio sites have synced their watch plans. Hobbyists wielding software radios are piling on too. Chapter 3. The Mothership Theory. The creepiest angle on 3 Atlas isn't its nature, but its next moves. At perihelion, shielded by solar brightness from our gaze, it'll sit ideally for what Loip dubs a backward solar orbit flip. This gravity whip could break its speed and launch mini-craft into stable loops around our star. We'd miss the action entirely. Intervention would be off the table anyway. And when 3I Atlas reappears sunward in November, any launch scouts would already be inbound. The math behind dropping probes from a counter-orbiting carrier is sleek yet chilling. With 3 Atlas countering our world's paths, ejecting subunits with thrust partly against its flow while their velocities compared to the Sun could be significantly lowered. They might settle into steady paths across the inner solar system using very little fuel. The backward trajectory isn't a drawback at all. In fact, it's an ideal method for planting devices in various planetary setups at the same time. Think about the potential of self-reproducing explorers, something that 3I Atlas could be showcasing. These units wouldn't have to be massive, maybe just the size of a mobile phone, fitted with essential detectors, signaling gear, and above all, the capacity to gather resources and manufacture duplicates. In Lowe's recent online entry, he suggests these devices might disperse across our solar system akin to dandelion puffs. Everyone able to generate innumerable offspring. In just a few years, rather than ages. They could set up a thorough monitoring setup all over our stellar vicinity. The schedule for possible device launches matches up eerily with the alignments of planets. Mars came as close as 29 million kilometers to 3I Atlas on October 3rd. Earth will reach its nearest point on December 19th at 1.8 astronomical units. Jupiter's chance comes in March 2026. Every such meeting offers a chance for releasing devices, with the planet's gravitational pull serving as a trap. The reverse path ensures these meetings occur more rapidly than usual, leaving any counteraction with shorter warning. What form might these devices take? Given the odd bulk of 3I Atlas, we're looking at tech way ahead of what humans can achieve. The main vessel by itself weighs 33 billion tons, implying its builders command energies and substances on levels we can hardly fathom. Any offspring it deploys would probably match that sophistication, perhaps featuring innovations we haven't dreamed up. They could evade our spotting tools, functioning in radiation bands we overlook, or employing cloaking that blends them with ordinary cosmic junk. The anonymous European stargazer who shared on 4chan floated an even wilder idea. Suppose 3I Atlas isn't made of regular stuff? The notion of a dark matter envelope feels like sci-fi. Yet it accounts for key oddities: the huge weight paired with faint glow, the peculiar shine outputs, the apparent production of power instead of just bouncing sunlight. Though many experts brush it off as guesswork, it's clear 3I Atlas acts nothing like the natural bodies we've recorded. Earth-based watches have uncovered more peculiarities that bolster the idea of a carrier vessel. The fluctuations in its glow don't match what we'd expect from a spinning, uneven comet core. Rather, they display rhythms hinting at man-made features or functioning components. Certain hobbyist sky watchers note quick bursts of light unrelated to standard comet ejections. Could these be reflections off solar arrays, signal beams, or bursts from attitude jets? Lacking superior info, we're left to ponder. The idea of atomic drive merits real attention. Should 3I Atlas house a fission or fusion core, it could account for the ongoing steam output at such remote solar distances. It would supply juice for sending the supposed wow signal. It would allow trajectory tweaks to hold the object's oddly exact path. Crucially, it would fuel the dispatch and upkeep of a swarm of small devices. The nickel-heavy outputs absent iron might signal shielding from a reactor or byproduct expulsions, not mere rock makeup. We've got real-world examples and human space ambitions for this carrier device setup. The Breakthrough Starshot initiative plans to hurl thousands of minuscule sensors and broadcasters toward nearby suns, each a handful of grams, pushed by photon sails. Projects like Daedalus and Project Icarus looked into fusion-driven ships to scatter probes at destination worlds. What we suspect for 3i Atlas is basically our own blueprint for deep space scouting, if only we possess the means. The twist is that another civilization might have wielded it Ian's back. The replication feature flips the risk evaluation on its head. Classic SETI figured extraterrestrial outreach via broadcasts or lone visitors. Yet breeding probes rewrite the rules. If even a single one takes root here, it could mine asteroids for raw stuff to forge replicas. Those replicas spawn further ones. In mere decades, our planet might find itself ringed by millions of foreign watchers, all gathering intel, maybe gearing up for unknowns we can't predict. The quiet from official bodies gains a new edge in this framework. If authorities at NASA or the ESA picked up signs of a probe being launched, would they go public right away? Or would there involve secret consultations, emergency planning sessions, and efforts to prevent widespread alarm as they pondered possible countermeasures? The ongoing U.S. government shutdown offers ideal camouflage for keeping details under wraps while leaders huddle in private to sort things out. Perhaps we're not facing a typical bureaucratic media silence, but instead an intentional lockdown on news as officials evaluate this extraordinary development. Chapter 4. The Ancient Traveler's 7 billion years. Pause to let that figure really register. Back when 3 Atlas set out on its path, the universe was only about half as old as it is now. Our sun hadn't formed yet. The particles that would later coalesce into Earth remained scattered across vast nebulae. This entity has journeyed across the void of space since long before our Milky Way's spiral arm took shape. And today, it has reached us, harboring within its timeless form mysteries from a chapter of cosmic history that's almost beyond comprehension. Experts arrived at this immense age through various converging clues. Matthew Hopkins and colleagues examined the object's path through space and simulated its history using simulations of how our galaxy evolved. 3 Atlas seems to hail from the Milky Way's thick disk, a layer born amid a frenzy of star birth roughly 9 to 13 billion years in the past. Spectroscopic data backs this up, revealing isotope patterns that stand out sharply from those in our solar system. How does eons of wandering between stars affect something like this? Ordinary comets would suffer where from high-energy particles, their frozen gases slowly evaporating under the dim glow of distant suns. That 3 Atlas retains frozen water and displays ongoing processes points to either extraordinary durability or ongoing upkeep. Should it prove engineered, we're dealing with construction meant to endure beyond planetary lifespans. Mechanisms running since prior to the rise of complex life here on Earth. Tech that weathered the rise and fall of countless star clusters. The mystery of its condition grows when factoring in the perils of deep space travel. Over 7 billion years, 3 Atlas likely crossed paths with several supernova blasts. It would have braved fierce radiation zones around giant stars. High-speed impacts from cosmic dust could have scoured any outer layers like a relentless grit storm. Nevertheless, it shows up whole and operational, shielded by more than just luck. One theory posits that 3 Atlas may have lingered in hibernation for much of its trip. Core functions powered down to save energy and reduce wear. Reactivation might have kicked in only upon nearing our solar system, rousing its long-dormant components after ages of quiet. That accounts for the odd behaviors observed even before passing Jupiter. It wasn't just warming from the sun. It was coming alive. For the field of astrobiology, the stakes are enormous. If 3 Atlas is a natural body, it could transport complex organics from a foreign star, or maybe even dormant microbes trapped in its frost. Researchers have pointed out that such wanderers might serve as carriers in the spread of life across space. Yet if it's constructed, this hints at intelligent beings arising in our galaxy epochs before our world took form. Societies ancient when Earth was still unborn. The Milky Way 7 billion years back looked quite different from its current state. Stars popped into existence more rapidly. Explosions of dying stars happened oftener. The levels of heavier elements, astronomers' term for stuff beyond hydrogen and helium, remained scarcer. Societies from that era would have navigated unique hurdles and prospects compared to ours. Their inventions might suit that wilder, more dynamic setting, coming across to us as unbelievably tough. Just think about the piloting feat in 7 billion years. Our galaxy has spun around its core over 25 full turns. Stars have shifted positions, emerged, and faded away. The stellar map, 3 Atlas left behind, has vanished entirely. Still, it pinpointed our solar system with such accuracy that it brushes against several worlds. Pure luck feels less and less probable. The route screams intention. Its course plotted to cross ours right at this point in the universe's timeline. Sourcing from the thick disk sparks intriguing puzzles about any builders behind it, assuming there were any. Stars there are typically ancient, low in heavy metals, and trace more oval paths around the galaxy's heart. Worlds orbiting them would boast altered elemental mixes versus Earth's. Organisms arising in those settings could evolve utterly alien chemical routes. Rather than relying on carbon-based biology, these entities could feature metabolisms driven by radiant energy instead of chemical reactions, types of sentience that we might overlook entirely as living beings. The backward path of 3 Atlas's orbit offers yet another hint at its primordial beginnings. Back in the galaxy's formative era, close brushes between stars happened far more often. Such gravitational tugs could readily reverse a body's path around its host. What strikes us as odd, a reverse course matching our system's plane, could have been intentionally selected eons ago, guided by precise forecasts of our sun's future position. Any creators involved would have required astonishing accuracy in projecting star movements over vast cosmic spans. In this light, the discovery of water ice grows all the more captivating. While water emerged soon after the universe's birth, the unique isotope patterns in 3 Atlas's outflows diverge from those in our solar neighborhood. The deuterium to hydrogen balance, the ratios of oxygen variance, they're all subtly mismatched. This H2O crystallized near some other sun, amid alien circumstances. Its extraterrestrial fluid bearing the molecular mark of its origin, transported over 7 billion years through the void. Fresh simulations indicate that 3 Atlas may have zipped near countless stellar clusters on its voyage. Every such brush would have nudged its route a bit. A stellar bumper car saga unfolding across geological timescales. Should this thing be gathering intel, it could hold logs from myriad distant realms. Scans of worlds forever out of our reach. Glimpses of societies that bloomed and crumbled long before our planet took shape. 3 Atlas might serve as a repository, a vault of cosmic chronicles inscribed in scripts beyond our current grasp. Chapter 5. The Mars unveiling October 3rd, 2025, stands out as the date when the world shifted, or when we nearly grasped the reality, only for it to get buried from view. As 3I Atlas swept to within 29 million kilometers of the red planet, teams on Earth had deployed 7 probes to witness the epical close approach. The sightings, or rather, the withheld glimpses, have sparked a torrent of theories that official hush orders can't suppress. The European Space Agency shared just a single photo from their ExoMars trace gas orbiter after days of multi-tool monitoring. That shot depicts, in their words, a hazy pale speck amid the cosmic black. But third-party scrutiny of that lone snapshot uncovers elements the ESA has sidestepped. Boosted processing reveals the speck isn't round. It's stretched out, organized around a core bulk with protruding arms that clash with every known comet profile in our catalogs. NASA's handling feels even stranger. Their Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter packs the high-rise camera, the sharpest optic weave orbited to another world. It ought to have nabbed 3 Atlas at 30 kilometers per pixel clarity, sharp enough for terrain outlines, build specifics, maybe signs of engineered design. Those shots got beamed back successfully, but they're sealed amid the federal lockdown, off-limits to civilians and even many researchers. What trickled out came from an unlikely corner. Unedited feeds from the Perseverance rover, still piping data autonomously past the blackout, reveal something mind-blowing. Simeon Schmaus, the skywatcher who first spotted 3I Atlas in those shots, has since refined scores of them. The thing pops up in 12 distinct batches, each with minor shifts aligning to its plotted path, yet its form defies norms. Overly slender, rigidly linear, eerily balanced for anything organic. The backyard stargazing crowd has stepped up to bridge the knowledge gap. Drawing on open trajectory info, they've pinpointed each Martian probe's gaze during the pass. China's Tianwen, one satellite had prime alignment. The UAE's Hope craft enjoyed a perfect vantage. India's veteran Mars orbiter mission, chugging on well beyond its expiration, was primed for key captures too. Still, not one outfit has dropped photos or comments on 3i Atlas. The quiet feels orchestrated, intentional, overwhelming. At the same time, whispers are leaking via secure chats and shadowy forums. Someone purporting to be a JPL subcontractor shared what they claim are raw high-res pics before vanishing from the net hours later. If legit, those visuals challenge all standard takes. They depict an item split into clear segments, perhaps linked modules tied by a spine-like scaffold. Symmetrical bumps emerge that might double as panels for power, heat vents, or detection gear. The fuzziness leaves room for doubt, but the possibilities are earth-shaking. The spectral readings made public only deepen the rather than clarifying the puzzle. The data from 3 Atlas raises more questions. Mars Express picked up odd absorption features that fail to align with standard comet emissions. The Nomad instrument aboard ExoMars spotted hints of intricate organic compounds, yet missing the basic chains typical of ancient ice. In their place, evidence points to refined substances, perhaps even polymeric structures. Researchers poring over these findings have stayed unusually cautious, opting for measured wording that shies away from firm judgments. What elevates the Mars flyby to special importance is this. 3 Atlas neared the reddish world along a path that felt intentionally designed for optimal scrutiny. It crossed paths with the orbits of several probes, staying in view of diverse sensors for several days. If the goal was to invite examination while being observed, this would be the ideal method. However, if the aim involved a slow unveiling, metering out details deliberately, then timing the closest inspections for when leading space organizations face communication blackouts makes perfect sense. Odd behaviors spotted as 3 Atlas drew near Mars deepen the intrigue. The object executed what looked like minor trajectory tweaks, slight shifts that positioned it squarely within the sightlines of various probes. These alterations were faint, just on the edge of detection, yet evident in the telemetry records. Ordinary comets lack such maneuvers. They adhere to predictable paths, influenced solely by gravity and occasional jets from vaporizing gases. 3 Atlas behaved differently. Meanwhile, private space firms have offered zero commentary. SpaceX, Blue Origin, and similar outfits equipped for far-reaching surveillance have gone utterly quiet on 3 Atlas. Sources within the field whisper of secret briefings, binding NDAs, and likely collaborations with official bodies. It appears the business side of space holds undisclosed insights, and they're keeping lips sealed. Online forums buzz with speculation over the true nature of the Mars observations. The hashtag 3AtlasTruth has dominated worldwide trends for 3 consecutive days. Hobbyists digging into the matter have flagged peculiar goings-on at remote tracking sites, bizarre plane traffic near defense contractors, and urgent gatherings of space policy committees. The overall trend hints at a unified effort to handle data too delicate for quick disclosure. Among the most bizarre accounts is one from a ham radio enthusiast in Australia, who reported intercepting cryptic signals emanating from Mars' vicinity amid the pass. The broadcasts occupied a band set aside for interplanetary ops, but deviated from familiar probe formats. The listener captured a few minutes of audio until it cut off suddenly. Breakdown of the tape reveals organized data bursts with numerical patterns implying human-made design. Still, absent decoding tools or background, the message stays elusive. Chapter 6. The Compositional Riddle. The cascade of liquid from 3 Atlas defies logic. Not so far out from the sun. Not at such velocity. Not bearing those distinct chemical markers. A flow of 40 kilograms per second, gushing outward like a high-pressure stream even as the entity glides through zones where frozen water ought to remain dormant like rock. Observations from the Swift telescope of hydroxyl radicals provided our initial molecular profile of this intruder. And the picture it paints upends conventional understandings of comet dynamics. In the vacuum, water dissociates into hydroxyl fragments that emit UV glow, a phenomenon tracked in myriad comets, but not to this extent. 3 Atlas generated these indicators while almost 3 AU from Sol, in icy voids where CO2 barely vaporizes. Whatever powers this hydration must draw from an unseen source. Sunlight by itself falls short. Isotopic proportions reveal an even odder tale. The deuterium-hydrogen balance in 3 Atlas's fluids mismatches every known source in our system. Nothing like Earth's seas, Europa's frosts, or rival comets' ices. This points to extraterrestrial origins, condensed near another sun under alien circumstances eons past. Yet the real head-scratcher is their uniformity, flawlessly even, as though refined, cleansed, and normalized beyond natural whims. The group, led by Zishi Xing at Oran University, theorizes the fluid might stem from drifting ice particles in the surrounding haze, not the core directly. Detached somehow from the primary mass, these specks would evaporate more readily thanks to ample exposure. That said, this idea sparks fresh dilemmas. What freed the particles from the heart? Why no parallels in fellow comets this far out? And why do it seems the rain particles all have a consistent size, as though they were produced in a factory instead of fracturing haphazardly? Each new finding only heightens the enigma surrounding the nickel. Spectral examinations reveal prominent nickel signals, but without the iron presence that differentiation in nature would typically produce. The proportion of nickel to iron deviates enormously by factors of magnitude. A few scientists have discreetly pointed out that this profile echoes specific man-made metal mixtures far more than ancient solar system remnants. These are nickel-based compounds crafted for harsh conditions, ones capable of enduring eons in the void without degradation. The discovery of carbon dioxide via Sphere X introduced yet another intriguing element. Those CO2 releases exhibit atypical levels of carbon-13, the denser isotope that's scarce in our local cosmic neighborhood. Such a concentration might stem from life-related activity, manufacturing processes, or origins in a star system with a distinct atomic forging background. All these options hold deep consequences for what 3I Atlas truly represents. Consider the reactions needed to generate water output at such volumes over weeks or even months. Should the hydroxyl releases prove genuine, and various separate studies back this up, then 3I Atlas likely harbors enormous stores of readily vaporizing frost or some inner energy mechanism fueling the reaction. The idea of a nuclear power unit starts to feel more plausible once you factor in the sheer power demands. The organic compounds spotted, though not yet fully identified, pose yet another riddle. The groups poring over the results have stayed unusually reserved on details, alluding just to intricate sequences and surprising configurations. Leaked readings hint at amino acids, but not the basic sorts like glycine from prior comet surveys. Instead, these seem more elaborate, perhaps displaying chirality, the asymmetric trait key to living systems. Information from gas chromatography on a Mars satellite, glimpsed momentarily on an open database before vanishing, indicated signals matching extended-chain hydrocarbons, far from the chaotic blend anticipated in ancient frosts, but targeted substances with orderly mass patterns, suggesting deliberate synthesis for targeted functions. The makeup of the dust introduces an extra veil of intrigue. In contrast to standard comets that shed silicate grains akin to those from asteroids, 3I Atlas's particles display odd spectral traits. Absorption features alien to familiar rocks, glow lines implying rare substances. Certain experts have whispered in private about engineered nanoparticles tailored for unfamiliar attributes. Infrared readings of heat levels also defy expectations. At its present solar distance, 3I Atlas registers hotter than predictions allow, not by a huge margin, but sufficient to imply self-generated warmth. Moreover, the heat mapping isn't even across the body. Fixed warm areas endure through repeated scans, holding steady against the spin. While comets lack such stable hot zones, devices with energy cores exhibit them. How the chemistry shifts as 3I Atlas nears the sun could reveal much. Everyday comets display foreseeable alterations in their outflows as varied frosts hit vapor points. Water, CO2, CO, methane, each activates at set solar ranges. Should 3I Atlas adhere to this sequence, it bolsters the organic origin theory. Yet if the oddities persist, with reactions clashing against heat simulations, then this points to an altogether different entity. Efforts in labs to mimic 3I Atlas's spectral marks have consistently fallen short. No blend of documented frosts and rocks yields the precise glow profiles observed. Teams have experimented with rare mixes, ancient setups, and even mimicked deep space alterations. None align exactly. It's like 3I Atlas consists of substances absent from our system, or at minimum, not in these observed pairings. Chapter 7. The Orbital Foretelling. The route 3I Atlas has followed into our solar realm feels less like mere luck and more akin to a meticulously plotted course. All the math, odds evaluations, and data crunching lead to one unsettling insight. This path is excessively refined, too neatly synced with world alignments, too fine-tuned for slingshot maneuvers to arise by accident. The probabilities rival hitting a jackpot in comparison. Start with the entry angle. 3I Atlas arrived on a backward path tilted at 175 degrees, basically looping inverted and reverse to our orbital flow. Such a setup ought to reduce close planetary passes, not enhance them. Still, its course has proven this interstellar visitor sliced through our solar system with uncanny precision, akin to a thread-piercing vast cosmic fabric. It zipped near Mars on October 3rd, swung by Venus, and set course for Jupiter, all while hugging Earth's orbital plane with odds of just 0.2%. Calculations by Richard Chloe uncovered an even more alarming pattern. The arrival of 3-2 Atlas timed perfectly with key planetary alignments, defying any random chance. Mars sat ideally for the initial close pass. Earth aligns flawlessly for the December rendezvous. Jupiter's moment arrives in March. Together, the odds of such coincidences happening by pure luck stand at 0.005%. That's 5 out of a million. But you'd have better odds tossing a coin and landing heads 17 times straight. Add to that the absence of any non-gravitational drift. Even with intense outgassing and shedding 40 kilograms of water every second, 3-2 Atlas has stuck to its predicted trajectory without a single deviation of 0.028 arcsec. This points to either a colossal mass immune to the push from vaporizing gases or some form of active control that nudges it back on track. Both possibilities upend our grasp of this phenomenon. The ecliptic matchup grows downright eerie under galactic scrutiny. Our planet's orbital plane tilts at 60 degrees to the Milky Way's disk, the usual birthplace for such wanderers. For 3-2 Atlas to enter within 5 degrees of our ecliptic after eons of travel demands either miraculous fortune or intentional steering. Lowe's models show that items from the galactic plane ought to barrel in from scattered angles. Yet 3-2 Atlas ignored that, opting instead for the retrograde entry. A probe approaching our system backward offers smart strategic edges. Planetary flybys occur at faster closing speeds, complicating any pursuit. The counter-direction simplifies launching subprobes that must brake to orbit worlds. Plus, the incoming vector yields prime viewing setups for scanning planets one after another. That's precisely the blueprint for a thorough scouting run across a whole star system. At $1.36 from the Sun at perihelion, 3-2 Atlas hits the sweet spot for a solar gravity boost. Closer in, intense sunlight could fry delicate gear. Farther out, the slingshot effect weakens. This exact spacing maximizes speed shifts while sparing heat damage, perfect for either bolting out of the system or firing off payloads toward the inner planets. The fine-tuning screams design. Deep dives into the path uncover subtle tweaks that natural laws can't account for. Minute velocity and heading shifts popped up at pinpoint intervals. These faint nudges, glimpsed in observation logs, ensured 3-2 Atlas stayed locked in telescope sightlines and synced with future planetary meetups. Random venting couldn't cause them. Gravitational tugs are too predictable. Clearly, an external force is at play. The upcoming route adds fresh layers of mystery. Post-solar occultation in November, 3-2 Atlas traverses a zone ripe with gravitational hooks to target Earth, Venus, or Mercury. The window low flagged, from November 21st to December 5th, is no fluke. It matches when the object's stance relative to us opens the best paths for any released craft. A mere few meters per second of thrust timed right could hurl a small scout straight at Earth. Tracing the inbound arc backward exposes yet another oddity. 3-2 Atlas's journey to us likely brushed past 3 other stellar neighborhoods in the last million years. Each brush should have slung it into a wilder incoming slant via gravity assists. But it hit our system with pinpoint accuracy that screams either wild happenstance or guided adjustments across the void. The March 2026 Jupiter brush teases the biggest what-if. At peak proximity, 3-2 Atlas falls within reach of Juno's sensors. More crucially, the gas giant's deep gravity could reshape the visitor's fate. Based on the fine details of approach, it might snag enough boost to flee the sun's hold forever, or shed speed to get trapped in our orbit. Which path it takes may well be no accident. Experts in orbital dynamics have crunched thousands of sims, probing origins, ages, and flyby histories for benign causes behind 3-2 Atlas's route. None yield the real path without forcing implausible assumptions. The closest matches demand treating 3-2 Chapter 8. The battle for information. An extraordinary situation is unfolding in the usually open domain of astronomical research. Details concerning the 3 instances of Atlas are undergoing strict oversight, selective release, and potential withholding, hinting at discoveries deemed too delicate for widespread access. These trends appear far too uniform among various organizations, nations, and facilities to dismiss as mere chance. What we're observing is either an extraordinary run of equipment malfunctions and administrative holdups in the annals of space exploration, or a deliberate push to regulate details surrounding this cosmic intruder. The period of quietude kicked off with China's Tianwen-1 endeavor. Even though it was ideally placed to scrutinize 3 Atlas amid the Mars pass, the China National Space Administration has disclosed zero material. No photos, no announcements, not even a nod to any attempted views. This stands in stark contrast to an entity that ordinarily trumpets each milestone in their Mars initiatives through broad press outreach. The hush is overwhelming and utterly atypical. Russia's role in the XMR project featured advanced spectrometers primed to collect in-depth material breakdowns. The Russian Academy of Sciences, which usually rushes to broadcast findings that bolster their standing, has issued zilch. Solo scientists who spoke out about 3 Atlas back in July and August have fallen silent. Their online profiles lie inactive, and their project sites remain unchanged. It's like the whole Russian astronomical sector has unanimously chosen to sideline this interstellar body entirely. Japan's JAXA operates surveillance gear aboard the International Space Station capable of following 3 Atlas. They remain mum. India's ISRO, equipped with an active Mars orbiter, upholds total quiet. The European Southern Observatory, leveraging its formidable earthbound scopes in Chile, has shown rare restraint regarding subsequent scans. This behavior spans all prominent spacefaring powers and key observatories. Confidential exchanges among experts reveal a troubling scene. Coded dispatches surfaced on WikiLeaks indicate that initial results on 3I Atlas proved so bizarre that several space entities consented to a self-imposed hold pending deeper review. The recurring term is awaiting confirmation of remarkable assertions. The Carl Sagan principle, that bold assertions demand robust proof, is being cited to rationalize this exceptional clampdown on data. Scholarly preprint archives offer their separate narrative. From October 3rd onward, no manuscripts on 3I Atlas have surfaced on AR-14, the go-to hub for celestial studies. This holds true even as numerous groups pursued sightings, with stats revealing such reticence as virtually unthinkable in routine conditions. By way of contrast, the prior interstellar visitor Borisov sparked more than 30 preprints within its debut observation month. 3IA Atlas has yielded none in the days after the Mars rendezvous. Requests under the Freedom of Information Act directed at NASA have drawn odd replies. Rather than the standard rejection or limited disclosure, officials have cited seldom applied national security waivers. Asserting that comet sightings could affect security has sparked skepticism and legal challenges. The Electronic Frontier Foundation has submitted urgent pleas for openness, contending that citizens deserve insights into possible alien encounters. At the same time, efforts to spread false narratives have ramped up. Online networks are now tagging mentions of 3I Atlas as likely falsehoods, including those merely citing established studies. Web search tools have tweaked their systems to downplay 3.2 Atlas topics, favoring stagnant NASA sites from prior to the Mars event. The online environment is being molded to curb general knowledge and chatter about this spacefarer. Enthusiast astronomers have emerged as the main wellspring of authentic details, yet they confront extraordinary obstacles. A number of leading hobbyists have noted gear breakdowns during pivotal times. Scopes aimed at 3i Atlas have inexplicably drifted off target. Data systems have failed, wiping out extended recording sessions. Though glitches occur, their concentration on 3 Atlas tracking defies statistical odds. Official engagement goes further than space bodies. The U.S. Space Force has engaged surveillance tools typically saved for enemy orbital threats. The National Reconnaissance Office has allegedly redirected spy satellites to the military and intelligence community's engagement in probing what should be a routine comet sparks clear suspicions about hidden knowledge. Global collaboration has veered into odd territory. The United Nations Office for Outer Space Affairs held an urgent meeting shielded from media and observers, where participants had to hand over gadgets and agree to strict secrecy pacts never seen before. Scant bits of info that slipped out point to talks on handling possible encounter procedures and aligning official statements. What justifies UN oversight in controlling info about an ordinary comet? Stock exchanges are displaying bizarre trends tied to the inbound path of 3i Atlas. Firms in aerospace and defense report odd share fluctuations without clear reasons. Businesses focused on long-range space comms gear are getting massive anonymous purchases. Options trading reveals wagers hinting at privileged info about a big reveal slated for November. Deep-pocketed players are gearing up for some bombshell. The creepiest clues emerge from insiders at space organizations. Unnamed insiders recount fierce arguments over going public. A few push for complete openness, while others claim society can't handle whatever 3 Atlas signifies. The favored approach seems to be a slow rollout, doling out facts bit by bit to avoid chaos, and gear up for admitting it might not be from nature. Chapter 9. The Unveiling Ahead. With under a day to go, 3i Atlas nears its solar closest point. Whatever unfolds then, obscured from our view by the sun's brightness, could decide if this is just an exceptional icy wanderer or a discovery that reshapes how we see our cosmic spot. It's primed for either backing standard stargazing or proving the unthinkable. No comet this near the sun has escaped without wild shifts. Heat from sunlight triggers fierce gas bursts. Frozen bits turn to vapor and blasts. Jets of particles burst from the core. Occasionally, the whole thing shatters under the clash of pull and steam pressure. Shoemaker Levy 9 offered a glimpse, splitting into 21 chunks before slamming Jupiter. Comet Dyson fell apart completely on its sun skim. Our star destroys comets routinely, and tomorrow 3 Atlas endures its ultimate test. Yet suppose it holds together? As Lowe proposes with his 40% odds, what if 3 Atlas keeps its form because it was built that way? The tech to endure such heat swings unscathed would be mind-blowing. Outer shells tough enough for extreme temperature jumps. Frameworks that flex with warmth without cracking. Gear that keeps running amid sun blasts that would zap bare circuits instantly. The JUICE mission hovers in an ideal spot to monitor. Its tools locked on 3 Atlas during the solar loop. The Eurocraft setup allows spotting any splits, any ejected bits, any odd moves unlike typical comets. Tomorrow's readings will either peg 3 Atlas as a quirky natural body or unlock a gateway we can't reseal. Earthbound scopes have rallied like never before. Chile's Very Large Telescope, Hawaii's Keck setup, Spain's Gran Telescopio Canarias, all booked slots right when 3i Atlas clears the sun's glare. Global radio arrays will tune in for signals or chatter syncing with the close pass. If 3i Atlas drops its mask, that's the instant. Lowe's outline of a launch plan feels like a sci-fi plot, but the science checks out. At closest solar approach, 3 Atlas zips at 68 kilometers per second against the sun. By firing off drones with backward thrusts to counter that speed, it could drop velocity enough for sun-circling ellipses. Those paths might aim at worlds way down the line, months or years out. It's like our own multi-stop probes, only from a far-off base. The idea of self-copying amps tomorrow from a sky watch to a pivot for humanity. Should 3i Atlas dispatch even one reproducer that mines asteroids for duplicates, foreign machines could claim our system in our era. Successive waves would shrink, multiply, evade notice. In mere decades, they might blanket everything. Observers are keeping a close eye on it, documenting every detail, perhaps gearing up for an event we can't even predict. Think about the clever alignment of perihelion coinciding with solar conjunction. Telescopes on Earth struggle to get a clear view because of the sun's overwhelming brightness. Signals to Mars probes get disrupted by solar noise. This creates an ideal window for hidden actions, be it launching small devices or performing adjustments that could normally be spotted. If something secretive is on the agenda, this is the prime time to carry it out. At perihelion, the 3i Atlas will face temperatures surpassing 400 Kelvin, intense enough to vaporize water, liquefy select metals, and spark reactions in intricate substances on board. For a typical comet, such warmth fuels dazzling outbursts. But for a man-made craft, it could ignite mechanisms idle through the frigid void of space. The surge of heat tomorrow might serve as an alarm, reviving long-dormant equipment. During perihelion, spectrum analysis will prove vital for spotting odd outflows. Should 3i Atlas turn out to be engineered, the intense warmth could lead to releases of refrigerants, byproducts from engines, or industrial substances absent in ordinary comets. Multiple research groups have set up custom filters to pick up wavelengths linked to refined materials, artificial substances, or even signaling beams. The idea of a nuclear power plant inside gets its big challenge tomorrow. If 3i Atlas harbors a fission or fusion core, the heat fluctuations at perihelion might spark noticeable shifts in its output. Neutron sensors aboard assorted probes are now online, primed to catch any atomic traces. Though the inverse square law complicates spotting at such ranges, a robust enough engine could yield clear signs. Wall Street is already factoring in the suspense of tomorrow. Volatility in options has surged to heights unseen since the COVID crisis. Shares in space companies are fluctuating sharply amid whispers and guesses. The VIX, that barometer of investor anxiety, indicates bets on major swings after perihelion. Driven by insider info or just jitters, capital is wagering on disclosures come dawn. Defense efforts have ramped up, hinting at plans for out-of-the-ordinary situations. Amateur spotters report odd stirrings at anti-missile bases. Space Force units have shifted positions. NATO's orbital hub is on high alert. Though spokespeople call it standard drills, the link to 3i Atlas's perihelion is tough to dismiss. Chapter 10. The November Window. Following tomorrow's perihelion, 3i Atlas will slip behind the sun from our viewpoint, vanishing into a data blackout until early November. For those 2 weeks, we'll lack direct sight of what could rank as the pivotal moment in human history. Upon reappearance, as our scopes lock on the interstellar guest anew, the truth will emerge. It might break apart like a sun-baked comet, or stay whole, maybe trailed by a swarm of released scouts, affirming our wildest suspicions and aspirations in one stroke. The November slot low pinpointed, from November 21st to December 5th, goes beyond good viewing odds. It marks when paths in space line up for possible Earthbound paths. Drones let loose at perihelion would require about 3 weeks to maneuver toward our planet. The schedule feels too spot-on to ignore. If 3i Atlas was built for this purpose, its builders plotted these gaps with stunning accuracy eons back. JUICE will deliver our initial glimpses after perihelion. Its gear will record 3i Atlas starting its exit from the Sun. Positioned ideally, the European probe can reveal structural shifts, trailing objects, or quirky behaviors from the solar close-up. Transmitting data from JUICE won't be instant, yet once it flows in, it'll hold solutions to queries we've pondered since gazing heavenward. Earth observatories are reserving slots for November, with some setups fully committed to tracking 3i Atlas. The Vera Rubin Observatory, expert at scanning vast sky patches swiftly, will hunt for any scattered satellites. The Event Horizon Telescope Array, renowned for black hole portraits, is tuned to possibly discern 3i Atlas's form. All top stargazing tools worldwide gear up for November's insights. Radio experts have crafted dedicated steps for November scans. If 3i Atlas sent the 1977 WOW signal, it could broadcast once more on its solar system exit. The Allen Telescope Array is set to keep up non-stop surveillance. Breakthrough Listen has committed every bit of its capacity. Radio enthusiasts around the globe have synced their viewing timetables too. Should 3i Atlas transmit anything, we'll catch it. The chemical shifts expected in the November timeframe will offer key insights. Ordinary comets display foreseeable variations in their output as they move farther from the sun. Various ices deactivate one after another as conditions cool. Should 3i Atlas adhere to this sequence, it bolsters the idea of a natural origin. Yet if the outflows stay irregular, if vapor release persists at unfeasible ranges, if odd compounds show up in the readings, then we're witnessing something far from ordinary. Spotting any probes from 3i Atlas poses a tough hurdle. Items dispatched from it could be tiny, maybe just a meter across or smaller. From cosmic distances, they'd be nearly undetectable by visual scopes, though they could give off thermal traces visible in the infrared. They could bounce back radar waves. They might broadcast transmissions as well. The hunt employs diverse sensing techniques, spreading the search as broadly as possible for any that could already be en route to us. Quiet efforts to ready the public for whatever November uncovers have started. Official bodies have refreshed their business continuity strategies. Alert networks have undergone frequent trials lately. Counseling services have been bolstered without fanfare. Though leaders insist these are standard updates, the schedule hints at backups for reveal situations that might spark societal unrest. The Vatican Observatory, among the most historic centers for stargazing, has planned a gathering on the faith-based ramifications of alien beings for the end of November. They say the date is pure chance, but attendees go beyond clergy to include life-in-space experts, UFO investigators, and especially a few pros tied to 3i Atlas studies. The Roman Catholic hierarchy seems geared up for possible proof of off-world smarts. Global teamwork setups sparked by 3i Atlas keep growing. The Space Research Committee has formed teams to handle different encounter possibilities. The worldwide astronomy body has lined up rules for labeling any man-made setups or launch devices found. Law experts are sketching out guidelines for future contact rules. The setup for initial encounters is assembling right now. Trading bots have spotted trends indicating big money players are gearing up for November news. Options trading reveals odd spikes in space tech, military gear, and oddly enough, firms digging for rare minerals. The savvy investors seem to wager on breakthroughs in tech that could overhaul whole sectors. Be it from leaks or sharp forecasting, funds are shifting to outfits primed to gain from any reveal of extraterrestrial tech. The mental toll of the November period reaches past formal setups. Wellness experts note rising worry in clients tuned into 3i Atlas. Web-based peer networks have sprung up for those grappling with deep life questions. Certain faith groups have run themed rituals. Just the chance that November could verify extraterrestrial minds is already shifting global mindsets. Research articles held back until November are piling up in publication queues. Journal heads mention record volumes of pieces on 3i Atlas. Lots tagged for joint rollout post key citing points. The research world looks primed for a unified reveal, with various squads set to back up or challenge bold assertions. Chapter 11. Ramifications across the cosmos. No matter if 3i Atlas turns out natural or engineered, its presence alone compels us to face truths about the universe we've shied from. Spotting a third star-crossing body in merely 8 years signals the Milky Way teems with drifters. Innumerable items floating amid stars. Every one possibly bearing data, substances, or even minds from remote solar setups. Isolation isn't our story. It never has been. The stellar sea brims with floating notes, and 3i Atlas could be our initial decode. The scale oddity by itself upends views on star-hopping crowds. Detecting something as hefty as 3i Atlas, merely our third such guest, implies the galaxy holds way more big items than theories foresaw. These go beyond small bits flung from world building. They're hefty entities, maybe full planets nudged loose by star clashes or intentional sins. The fallout for panspermia, the dispersal of life, the vast distances separating star systems are truly immense. Should 3i Atlas prove to be a natural phenomenon, it suggests that the void between stars can safeguard intricate chemical compositions over billions of years. The presence of water, organic compounds, and peculiar isotopic signatures we've observed indicates that substances originating in one star system can endure the voyage to another with remarkable preservation. The fundamental components of life might be drifting perpetually across the cosmos, delivering sophisticated molecules to nascent worlds that could initiate biological processes. Our own planet may have been enriched by such primordial interlopers long ago. Yet, if it's engineered, as that 40% likelihood from expert analysis implies, then we're confronting a truth that eclipses every breakthrough in scientific history. It would signify that sentient beings emerged in our galaxy eons before Earth coalesced, societies that predated our sun's ignition, innovations that have persisted longer than our world itself. We wouldn't merely share the universe with others. We'd be late arrivals in a galaxy teeming with life for the majority of its existence. In this light, the backward path of its orbit gains profound significance. A spontaneous origin demands improbable alignments of chance. A crafted one implies deliberate planning. Counterclockwise paths enable efficient scouting of several worlds using limited fuel. They offer optimal positioning for dispersing sensor arrays. They render evasion by rudimentary societies using propellant-based propulsion virtually unfeasible. If 3I Atlas was intentionally crafted, its course demonstrates advanced mastery of celestial dynamics and perhaps prior intel on our solar setup from earlier surveys. Now, reflect on the ties to the WOW signal. Should 3I Atlas have broadcast that in 1977, it reveals the entity has been tracking Earth for a minimum of 48 years. It was aware of our radio observatories. It understood the bands we scanned. It might have even grasped the importance of the 21-centimeter hydrogen emission in SETI efforts. This goes beyond accidental outreach. It's deliberate outreach from a mind that comprehends our capabilities more acutely than we'd prefer to admit. The notion of self-reproduction compels us to face concepts that speculative fiction has probed while empirical inquiry has sidestepped. If 3I Atlas releases replicators that mine comet debris to fabricate duplicates, we're envisioning systems capable of populating whole star clusters sans organic pilots. The Milky Way could harbor legions of such independent scouts, methodical and enduring, propagating through the void like a gradual bloom of cognition. Our world might have endured scrutiny from these sentinels for eons undetected. The object's 7 billion-year vintage reshapes our view of cosmic development. When 3I Atlas embarked, the cosmos was in its zenith of stellar birth. Explosive stellar deaths were routine. High-energy flares abundant. Any society thriving amid that turmoil contended with perils beyond our conception. Still, they fashioned an artifact that endures, operates, and maneuvers. The durability demands design tenets we've yet to uncover. Perhaps alloys we can't produce, or physical laws eluding our grasp. Humanity's handling of 3I Atlas exposes our character as much as the artifact unveils the stars. The suppression of data, bureaucratic frenzy, financial turbulence, all signal our instinctive grasp of the gravity. This transcends mere empirical gain. It probes our place in the grand scheme. Are we singular, cherished, the sole spark in an immense desolation? Or one of countless, perhaps watched, maybe evaluated, definitively stripped of isolation's illusion? These quandaries ripple across all facets of human inquiry. Faiths must reconcile texts premised on our solitude. Research must integrate the chance of encountering artifacts surpassing comprehension. Regimes must weigh autonomy in a realm where our globe could fall under watch by remote, detached intellects. Every notion of our exceptionalism dissolves if 3I Atlas confirms as manufactured. The societal fallout defies easy reckoning. Should 3I Atlas yield tech ripe for adaptation, sectors could vanish in an instant. Compact energy sources, star-hopping drives, substances defying decay over geological spans. Such leaps would upend society. Yet they'd also upend hierarchies. States with orbital ambitions would seize dominance. Firms unraveling extraterrestrial ingenuity might eclipse state authority. The race for 3I Atlas's enigmas could ignite clashes dwarfing conventional territorial disputes. From an adaptive lens, fresh insights emerge. If sapience proliferates to dispatch envoys arriving now, the cosmos could brim with vitality. Objects at different points in their evolution aren't unique to us. We're just ordinary examples. Our challenges, successes, and fates could be echoes of patterns replayed endlessly throughout the universe's timeline. 3i Atlas compels us to view humanity not as evolution's crowning achievement, but as a single trial amid trillions. Remarkable solely in how we see ourselves. Chapter 11. Broader universal ramifications. Whether 3i Atlas turns out to be a natural formation or a constructed artifact, its presence alone demands we grapple with truths about our cosmos that we've long shied away from. Spotting a third interstellar interloper within a mere 8 years indicates the Milky Way teems with nomads. Innumerable bodies meandering amid the stars, each possibly bearing data, substances, or even sentience from remote solar neighborhoods. Isolation was never our reality. The vast stellar sea brims with bottled dispatches, and 3i Atlas could mark the initial one we've deciphered. That size irregularity alone upends our models of interstellar wanderers. Encountering something as colossal as 3i Atlas as merely our third such guest implies the galaxy harbors vastly more sizable entities than theories anticipated. These go beyond mere debris flung from planet-building processes. They represent hefty structures, perhaps rogue planets hurled into the void by stellar clashes or intentional ejections. The repercussions for panspermia, the dissemination of life across star systems, are profound. Should 3i Atlas prove natural, it reveals that the voids between stars safeguard intricate chemical structures over eons. The H2O traces, carbon-based compounds, and peculiar isotopic signatures we've observed suggest payloads from one star's domain can endure voyages to another, arriving largely unaltered. Essential ingredients for life might perpetually cascade between suns, infusing nascent worlds with molecular starters that ignite biological processes. Our own planet could owe its origins to such primordial travelers. Yet if artificial origins hold, with that 40% likelihood holding firm, then humanity confronts a paradigm shift eclipsing every prior breakthrough. It would signify that sentience emerged in our galaxy epochs before Earth coalesced. Societies predating our sun's ignition. Innovations persisting longer than our world has spun. We'd transcend mere companionship in the cosmos. We'd be late arrivals to a galaxy teeming with life across most of its expanse. In this light, the backward path gains deeper significance. A spontaneous origin demands improbable alignments. An engineered path renders it purposeful. Counter-orbit maneuvers enable efficient scouting of planetary arrays with low fuel demands. They offer prime setups for dispersing sensor arrays. They render evasion by rudimentary societies all but futile using conventional propulsion. If 3i Atlas was engineered, its course betrays advanced mastery of celestial paths and, conceivably, prior intel on our system's layout from earlier scouts. Ponder the ties to the WOW signal. Suppose 3i Atlas broadcasted back in 1977. That positions the entity as an Earth observer for no less than 48 years. It recognized our radio observatories. It grasped the bands we scanned. It might even have fathomed the hydrogen frequency's role in extraterrestrial hunts. This surpasses chance encounters. It's deliberate outreach from a mind that comprehends our ways more keenly than we'd prefer. The replication hypothesis pushes us toward concepts long mused in speculative tales, but sidestepped by rigorous inquiry. If 3i Atlas releases drones that mine asteroids to fabricate duplicates, we envision tech capable of claiming whole star realm sans organic pilots. Such self-sustaining scouts could saturate the galaxy, methodical and enduring, propagating awareness like a gradual burst of cognition. Our world might have endured subtle surveillance by these sentinels for ages, undetected. Its 7 billion-year vintage reshapes views on stellar history. When 3i Atlas embarked, the cosmos hit its zenith of stellar births. Explosive stellar deaths proliferated. High-energy blasts raged more often. Any societies from that epoch contended with perils beyond our ken. Still, they crafted an enduring marvel, one that endures, operates, and steers. The resilience demands design tenets alien to us, fabrication methods unattained, perhaps principles of reality we haven't grasped. Humanity's handling of 3I Atlas exposes our essence as much as the entity unveils the stars. The data suppression, bureaucratic frenzy, financial turbulence all signal an innate grasp of the peril. This transcends mere scholarly finds. It probes our standing in the grand scheme. Are we singular, cherished, the sole sparks in an immense barren void? But what if we're not the sole inhabitants of the cosmos? What if our world is just one of countless others, perhaps under watchful eyes, subject to evaluation, and utterly stripped of any illusion of isolation? These profound questions ripple through every corner of human inquiry. Faith traditions face the challenge of reinterpreting sacred texts that presume our planet's singularity. Researchers in the sciences will need to integrate the reality of encountering artifacts far surpassing our comprehension. Leaders in governance must rethink autonomy amid a cosmos where our home could be scrutinized by immense, detached, and impartial minds. All notions of our species' exceptional place in existence shatter if the 3 Atlas turns out to be engineered. The financial ramifications alone defy full grasp. Should the 3 Atlas reveal innovations ripe for adaptation, swaths of sectors could vanish in an instant. Think boundless energy sources, drives for crossing stars, substances enduring eons. Such breakthroughs would transform society entirely. Yet they might also upend every current hierarchy. Countries boasting orbital initiatives would seize unmatched edges. Firms unraveling extraterrestrial designs could amass influence rivaling states. The rush to unlock the 3I Atlas's mysteries might ignite disputes that dwarf today's fights over resources. From an adaptive viewpoint, fresh insights emerge. If sentience spreads so widely that long-gone societies dispatch envoys arriving in our era, then the stars could brim with beings at diverse evolutionary points. We hold no uniqueness. We're ordinary. Our trials, triumphs, and fates could echo as archetypes replayed endlessly through the annals of the universe. The 3 Atlas compels us to view our kind not as evolution's apex, but as a single trial amid trillions, remarkable solely in our self-view.